G'day battlers and welcome to almost the 2024 Brisbane Regional Championships. It's a bit of a look back, right? It only happened a week ago. It may as well be happening now because there wasn't a live stream then, but we do have a live stream now and we'll get into all of that. But first of all, I'm joined by almost three lovely human beings. Shout out Dr. Trotter, who has unfortunately not been able to join us at the last minute, but we at least do have to my this way the lovely Debbie Pebble. Hi, Debbie.
Hello. Hi, everyone.
And we've got Fishy Legs right on down there as well.
Yo.
So gang's all here, basically, and we're ready to go. Yeah, for those who aren't aware or who are tuning into this out of, it's just showed up in the YouTube algorithm and you have no idea what is going on. This is going to be going through the top 4 competitors from the Brisbane Regional Championship. So Brisbane Regionals happened last weekend. We didn't have a broadcast, but we have some absolutely fantastic community members who were literally just standing over people's shoulders with their phones, recording the battles. So shout out to Gone 1001, mikeymorgs, and of course our queen, ZoeTwoDots, for getting us some of that footage that we'll be seeing today. But, all three of us were there, so we have a little bit of boots on the ground knowledge as to what's going on. But, Fishy Legs, how does it feel to sort of finally get some sort of a live stream out from the Oceanic regional scene?
Oh, mate, it's been a long time coming, especially for the Brisbane scene too. Like, we had OCIC last year, which was fantastic to watch some of Aussie's best battlers, but to get a bit more coverage for some of our other regionals is really awesome. I'm keen to see some of these wicked battles because some of them are really, really exciting.
Yeah, exactly right. Because we've had the chance to see these in person. Like, we know that some of these are absolutely nail-biter. Like, they could have been world champion level battles. Like, there's some insane stuff here today. And I mean, Debbie also have been on the ground and was also like at OCIC. We can pray and hope that maybe one day we will get to see a live stream, but this is the next best thing,
Absolutely, the next best thing. Like, we've just, it's just like, just a trio of Aussies just trying to make it work. I think having this community, post stream, whatever you want to call it, that the community members have recorded the content here, so it is a little bit like, it's homely, and at least it's something.
Yeah,
homely is generous.
The correct term is definitely scuffed. This is going to be a pretty interesting stream. We'll go through all of the bits and bobs as we go, because there are going to be a couple of quirks as we jump into these battles. But first off, let's paint the picture. Where are we in the scene? So again, this is actually the first time that we had a planned day 2 at an Australian regional. So essentially they got to the top 4 and then the top 4 were sort of left for day 2. And so we have a bracket that looks a little bit like this, where we have Rick Flareon and Stumpy 25-17 up in the winners bracket, still undefeated through this entire tournament. And then in the losers bracket, we have Jakobovich and Valiant Vish. And let's be clear here, these guys are all incredible battlers. Like, Rick Flareon famously won the Melbourne 2022 regional and then qualified as second place at Sydney regional in this last 2023 season. Jakobovich is the OCIC champ. Valiant Vish, who needs to mention Valiant Vish's sort of a massive track record, also qualifying from that 2022 Melbourne regional. And then, top 4 at OCIC, and then also qualifying through Brisbane Regional. Well, originally qualifying through the Brisbane Regional last season, taking out someone. I can't really remember who he beat, but
no recollection from that tournament at all.
It was someone, I'm sure. I'm sure I'll remember it later. But yeah, these 4 guys. And Stumpy, who is a little bit of an unproven battler on the Play Pokemon scene, has only been to one tournament before, but is a very strong battler and has always been through the Sylph Arena scene, always near the top of that leaderboard. And it was really awesome to sort of see him at least getting in there to get into a Play Pokemon tournament. And he's come straight in with a top 4 currently in the winners bracket. So actually a guaranteed top 3. So with all of that said, that's a lot of rambling. So I think we will sort of start to get into the battles. Now, first quirk of the stream is that these 2 battles, Rick versus Stumpy and Yakko versus Vish, were both happening simultaneously. And so, unfortunately, we do not have the recordings of the first 3 battles of Rick Flareon versus Stumpy. So we're going to be jumping straight into game number 4, where I believe Stumpy is currently up 2-1, but I'll sort of pass it off to Debbie and Fishy Legs, who are sort of going to take us through those ones at the very least.
Yeah, so 2-1 to Stumpy currently, and we can see here the teams below us. Debbie, any thoughts on the sort of stronger Pokemon in this matchup that we might be expecting to see for games 4 and 5?
Well, you know what? Like, before we get into that, I just love that Stumpy has a carving. That's the first thing that I see here. But yeah, a very I suppose like a couple of traditional mons on both sides. Obviously, like both bringing in a Registeel, which, you know, the steels have been like kind of thrown away in around. Oh, not thrown away, but like kind of hidden to the side from this old, well, I suppose now considered the old meta, now that we are into the new season. But we are talking about last week, so let's forget this week's news. But I'd really do like the look of Frostlass on Stumpy's team. How about yourself, Fish?
Yeah, Registeel was an interesting pick because we were seeing a huge uptake in the Alolan Sandslash, but neither of these trainers have brought that, and I think that really does open the doorway for the Frostlass. The only hard check there is the Lantern. You can still hit those really strong Shadow Balls into the Lantern. So I like that. I think Frostlass is going to be key for Stumpy, and I think that the Registeel looks really strong too, provided it can avoid the Swampert and the Medicham.
Yeah, absolutely through there. Obviously, both bringing in Medi, like, you know, RIP Medi at this stage. But yeah, no, both running the same moveset as well on the Medi. So both running with counter, Ice Punch and Psychic. So yeah, it'll be really, really interesting through there. Interesting to note that on Stumpy's side, there doesn't seem to be like a designated flyer.
No, there's no real flyer. I think Frostlass kind of fills the hole where it's the anti-fighter, anti-grass sort of slot. So I don't think Stumpy really has that need for a flyer on his team, which I really like. I think it's definitely a lot safer. If he was to say bring something like a Charizard or a Mantine, you've got a lot less to worry about from that Lantern.
Absolutely, the three there. Stumpy opting for a Swampert instead of I suppose the most common pick would have been Lantern there, which has a lot more, possibly more play. And, you know, Swampert's been around for a very long time, so we know how strong it can be, especially with even just with a couple of shields.
That's 100% right. It can definitely fight back against all of the Pokemon on Rick Flareon's team with those hard-hitting Earthquakes and Hydro Cannons. A really cool thing about this tournament was it's one of the first with in Australia with open teamship. So one thing that we picked up is that Rick Flareon is actually running Flash Cannon and Zap Cannon on his Registeel. Now that's a really cool pick in my opinion because it allows you to hit back against the Glygars that are running around everywhere, as well as they're hitting that Frostlass for super effective damage. So I know Rick is really reliant on that Flash Cannon and he loves to run it. So it'll be interesting to see how that plays out for him in this set.
Absolutely. I think we are ready to go.
Alrighty. So we can see here that we've sort of jumped in halfway through this battle. Lantern has just fired off a Surf. Here comes through another one into this Registeel, and Stumpy is going to elect to shield this move.
That's correct there. Now, obviously, we only have one side of the footage here, and now we have Stumpy going for a Focus Blast towards this Lantern, and we can see that Rick had decided to shield on this one, preserving the health on that Lantern, and quickly swapping out. We see the Swampert being brought in with the Shadow Dragonair on Rick's side. Yeah,
the Dragonair now going for what is likely to be a Body Slam coming through on the Swampert, which is going to do a fair bit of damage given that it is a squishier mon, and you see there right in the red, Stumpy gets to this Earthquake. As you can see him charging it up now. The camera's going wild. The Earthquake's coming through. And it takes out the Dragonair. Boom. All right, what will Rick
taking
decide?
that out. We're waiting for Rick to bring his next mon out. It brings in the Water Gun Lantern as well. And just easily just farms it down from that range there.
Yeah, quick couple of water guns coming through there. Stumpy having a bit of a think about what he wants to do next. Brings in the Registeel to try and absorb some of this energy off the Lantern. We can see Lantern now queuing up the next move. We imagine it's just going to be a Surf, but Stumpy electing to no shield. He's going to put it all on the back of his last Mon here.
That's correct. The Frostlass comes out, hopefully being able to farm down here with those water guns. They're so quick though, so Rick is able to get off the next move, which is likely to be a Surf.
Stumpy electing to no shield the Surf, knows he can tank it, still has over half health, but he's going to go for the really aggressive Powder Snow down here, but Rick just has too much energy. Next Surf coming through, Stumpy has to shield this one or his Frostlass is gone.
The good thing about Frostlass is that with shields, it is quite powerful through there. But Rick has a full health Medi here. Now, Stumpy going for the Avalanche through here, but we know that this Medi can tank it.
Medi elects to no shield. Rick calling it not going to be a Shadow Ball. Now comes through the Ice Punch, and Stumpy is admitted defeat here. What a fantastic and tight game in that last set there. Just not able to get to the back-to-back moves there for the Frostlass.
Absolutely. So now we have tied up the game. So this is now into the that was just a completion of the fourth battle. So now we're going into game 5. I suppose now that it's evened up the scores, you're back to square one. What do you do in this position? What are your thoughts here, Fishy Legs? Like, how do you go into game 5?
Game 5 is so tricky because you've played already 4 games, and that's generally almost twice as much as most sets go for. And you've sort of shown all your cards by this stage. So it's do we go back to what we started with in our first game and hope that my opponent resets, or do we try and throw something completely different out there to throw the opponent off? But personally, I'm always going to probably stick to going for something consistent in that game 5 matchup and just trying to play out as neutrally as possible. But honestly, it can go either way here.
Yeah, I think definitely my personal preference would be go with your favorites, go things that we're comfortable with, and like at least something a bit more reliable in the sense of like personal reliability, maybe not onto the, maybe not stat wise. But yeah, going into game 5, I think now that, it was Stumpy was ahead, now Rick's evened it out. I think it's really on the back foot of Stumpy here to try and actually get that foot back into his momentum.
That's right. Rick does have the momentum currently, and which plays such a valuable role in these show 6, pick 3 style formats when you've got the double elimination as well. Like, no one wants to be sent to that losers bracket, and Rick is going to come in strong. Stumpy and Rick are both very familiar battlers. They've played against each other a number of times, so it's going to be a real mind game. Now, it is important to note too, before we get into this battle, that we do kind of cut in about halfway through the battle. From memory, the lead matchup, which we won't get to see, was Rick Flareon's Lickitung into Stumpy's Swampert. Okay, and then there's a little bit of to and fro from there. Debbie, any recollection on what did occur to set us up before this battle?
I believe it was Stumpy's Swampert into Rick's Lickitung, and then I think there was a quick switch into Stumpy's Medi,
Yes,
which Rick brought in his Shadow Dragonair, I believe. But like I said, this is very homely, possibly the word scuffed. We are just running the battles from a community base. So from other people getting their other phones. Pokemon Go is all about, playing on your mobile phone, right? So we have recorded on mobile phones to play this footage. So it is what it is, and it is something. So we can get started on the battle here on the final game 5 of the winners final, Stumpy versus Rick Flareon.
Okay, we see here the Medicham going down to a body slam from the Dragonair. Stumpy is down shields and he's down switch. He comes in with a Frostlass. He's going to try a really aggressive farm down here, I believe, but this Dragonair will get some energy off. Oh, and a massive catch here by Rick, catching the Avalanche on a Lantern, which is going to be very resisted damage.
Absolutely. Just does a little bit on the lantern there. So very, very clever switch there. Now Stumpy bringing out his Swampert through here, and it looks like he's going for an Earthquake.
Yeah, I guess the Earthquake through, but does get shielded by Rick Flareon. These water guns are really going to put some pressure onto the Swampert to start throwing moves quite quickly. And we see now that a Surf is coming through from Rick Flareon. Stumpy elects to shield, knowing that he can get some more damage off in the lantern before it goes down, wanting to keep it away from that Frostlass.
Absolutely. Going for the Hydro Cannon here just to get some more chip damage and hopefully bring that lantern down into the red there, just so that Swampert has done something and be like, thank you, Swampert, you've done your job. Oh, actually, we have 2 backed up there. So it'd be interesting to see if Rick decides to shield from this point on.
Rick electing to let his lantern go, keeping shield advantage, comes in with the Dragonair to try and get the farm down, gets the farm down off. In comes the Frostlass. The Dragonair is super low, gets off this final move here. Is this going to be enough to KO, Debbie?
Oh, it's going to be pretty close. We know Frostlass is... Oh, there we go. We're into the red, but not enough to KO. Now, this is just a tap. Oh, man, and there it goes down.
Wow. That Dragonair just unable to Dragon Breath down that Frostlass, and the Frostlass lives on 1 HP to seal up Game 5.
What an epic way to end that matchup between Stumpy and Rick Flareon. And, congratulations to Stumpy there. And I remember watching this on the game floor, and it was just like the tension was palpable. And the fact that everyone just groaned when that happened. I was just like, oh my goodness, that was so darn close. I think people didn't even understand who actually won because it was just down to the smallest of seconds and that one last tap at the end.
It was unbelievable to watch. I think the whole crowd just held their breath, just waiting to see what was going to happen at the end there. Because we thought it was Rick's game, and then Frostlass, out of nowhere, just hangs on. I don't know what Stumpy's IVs are, but I'm going to have to ask, I think.
I have asked Stumpy. It is rank 1.
There you go. That makes the difference.
When IVs matter is when IVs matter.
That's 100% correct. But yeah, so we have Rick Flareon now kicked down into the losers bracket to face the winner of Jakobovic versus Valiant Vish, and Stumpy has made his way to the grand final. An incredible performance from Stumpy. Definitely took out some top tier battlers along the way to get to that grand final spot.
Yeah, and for someone that hasn't been, I suppose, I think in the Australian scene we've known of Stumpy. We know how good he is. And I think for him to be able to come to a regional and prove his worth, and that vote of confidence that he can take someone out like Rick, who has been a 2-time world contender as well. I think that he's got, just that kick up his boots that he can be like, oh, you know what? I'm heading to the finals now and comfortably getting into the grand finals and awaiting who is going to win from the next matchup.
Absolutely right. So hopefully we can transition through into the next one. And Steve's back.
It's Steve.
Hey, I'm also here. Hey guys. But yeah, look, you guys hit on all of the important points there. Like Stumpy, very much sort of the unproven battler on the international stage potentially, but coming through as the last undefeated battler of this incredibly stacked regional. It really just goes to show that there's more undiscovered talent here in Australia, and having these sort of chances to be able to show off these battles at least gives that opportunity. In saying that, obviously, neither of those 2 battles are from start to finish, and we also missed the first 3 battles. So we will get to see a little bit more of Stumpy later on in now the grand finals confirmed. But at least for the rest of the stream, every battle we have goes from start to finish, and we also have all of the battles that we're supposed to have. So, we've started off with our most scuffed, although in saying that, we will be getting a little bit more, I guess, scuffed in a different way, because we're now going to move from sort of ZoeTwoDots, higher quality camera, to some Gone 1001 and mikeymorgs, both just recording with their phones. And there's some varied quality as we go on. So it'll still be definitely interesting to stream from here on out. But we'll get into it and take a look at these battles to essentially decide who is going to have to take on Rick Flareon in the losers bracket. And so it's going to be one of Jakobovic, the OCIC champ, or Valiant Vish, the champ of Brisbane before, and also doing incredibly well at OCIC as well. Although I think that the two of these guys actually dodged each other from actually battling at OCIC. So, but, they dodged each other once. They didn't dodge each other the second time, did they, Fishy?
Absolutely not. I think this is actually the first time that these two trainers have paired up in the play Pokemon circuit. So it was a very hype matchup to watch for sure. We know that these two are on the top of the country, essentially. Jakobovic, OCRC champion, doesn't need really any more introduction than that. And Valiant Vish, the reigning Brisbane Regional champion. These battlers were absolutely zoned in for this battle. It was going to be pretty awesome set to watch back. Some very spicy teams as well. We'd like to see that. What do you make of the team, Steve?
Yeah, look, spicy team is absolutely right, especially on one person's side. But I will quickly mention that we did actually see these two, you might have been battling at the time, but we ended up seeing these two battle at the World Championships in Yokohama. On stage. And that time we saw sort of Valiant Vish sort of coming through, take it out. We saw one big pop off go while he was there on the stage. So Yako definitely sort of looking for that revenge, I suppose, to take it back against Valiant Vish. But yeah, you're absolutely right. There is some spice going on here. Valiant Vish especially bringing not only the Arctivax in, which is sort of like a Pokemon that is a little bit unproven in the sense that it hasn't won anything yet, but is definitely showing up on more and more and more teams as we go in, but also bringing in the Charger Bug, which only the weekend before we actually saw perform all the way at LAIC, taking out the entire thing. So I'm not sure how much in advance Vish had this team put together. I don't know if he was practicing with Charger Bug sort of before it had major success at LAIC, but it's a really interesting pick. Do you have insight about what Charger Bug can actually accomplish in Pokemon Go PvP? Because I feel like a lot of people just ignore it completely.
Yeah, I know Vish has been running Charger Bug a lot in the last season. He's very well versed in Charger Bug, and he's been looking at it as a core breaker for a while now. The key points with Charger Bug is that it definitely has a really good spot in breaking that Lantern and Superior Core. And it also hits back quite hard against things like Umbreon, which are very common, and it resists Metacham's fast move. So it has a lot of play there against the Metacham. So it's really quite a strong core breaker. One of the most popular teams coming into this end of the current, what was the current season, was the team that Elite and JJ and a few other people ran, where it had the Superior and the Lantern, Frostlass and Medi, all these other things. And Charger Bug is probably one of the best core breakers for that team, only needing to dodge the Gligar. So there's definitely some thoughts going in there from Vish. And the Arctivax as well is another really cool pick that breaks that Superior Lantern core, which can become a little bit RPS. So Vish is one of those trainers I know who loves to run as neutral as possible and just play his brains out. And then you can see that Yako has probably taken a little bit of a different approach, running Shadow, Kanto, Ninetales.
Yeah, which is a spice pick in itself. I mean, as you were sort of talking through Charger Bug and what the core it breaks, you literally mentioned 4 of the Pokemon that are on Yako's team in the Superior, the Metacham, right, the Lantern, and the Umbreon. But having that sort of Kanto Ninetales there actually gives you an incredibly strong answer to that Charger Bug. And again, because we're sort of in open team sheetville for the first time in Australia, we do sort of have that knowledge that Ninetales is running Ember as a fast move alongside Weather Ball and Scorching Sands as a charge move, which is a really interesting one, and one that I wish that we'd sort of got to see a lot of Yako battling through this tournament up to now, because I am really sort of interested to see how that works, because I don't think there hasn't been that much Kanto Ninetales success in sort of the recent season. Like obviously when Cindy used it up in Canada a long time ago, it exploded in use and was doing incredibly well, but over time it's just sort of slowly slunk back, into the background, especially with all of the Lanterns running around. But it really has a good opportunity here against Vish to actually be a pretty powerful Pokemon. But I think, like, on top of that, we also have the Dragonair on one side and the Arctibax on the other. It's sort of like a double dragon sort of scenario. And Yakko, I was sort of talking to Yakko going into day 2 when they sort of knew that this was the first battle of the day. Like, they knew who the opponent was, they knew each other's team, they knew what was going to happen. And Yakko was like, look, our teams are really balanced. I think that it's really going to come down to where our dragons end up against each other. For example, can Yakko get his Dragonair in a spot that it is able to do more damage and tear into Vish's team more than Arctibax can tear into his own? That's sort of how Yakko's mindset going into it all. And I can definitely see that sort of being the case with so much sort of neutral potential coming out of these picks, which, you know, there's a lot going on. And I don't know if we actually mentioned it, but Vish is also running Water Gun on his Lantern.
Yes. Yeah. We have seen a little bit of the Kanto Ninetales as well in Toronto, where it came top 8 with Magmar Man 26. So I think a little bit of inspiration there from Yukovic. And honestly, I really like the look of that Dragonair. It's got neutral play into absolutely everything on Valiant Vish's team, whereas the Arctibax does kind of have to worry about that Metachamp.
Yeah, it does. And actually, that's something else that Yakko sort of said, like, even it being sort of a game of the Dragons, because of that Metacham coverage, Yakko was kind of like, I feel like I have a slight team advantage here because he has that Metacham here that matches up really well into that Arctibax. Obviously, you know, Metacham versus Dragonair isn't like a done deal in the sense that Metacham does still have that Ice Punch that it can throw and do a lot of damage there, but you don't have that same sort of counter damage that's sort of propelling you through the Dragonair quite as much. But I mean, with that said, we've talked a fair bit about these teams. We can probably get into the battles, sort of, again, the losers semis here. Yakko versus Vish, 2 Australian legends in the scene, and we will be able to come into it straight from the start of the battle with a Kanto Ninetales on Jakobovic's side on the left, and we could see that was a Charger Bug on the right-hand side with a quick swap into Metacham and staying in with the Ninetales, looking to do some damage with this Weather Ball.
Yeah, I like the strategy here from Jakobovic. Going to chip the Metacham before dipping out, but Valiant Vish, respecting the damage, is going to pull up a shield, and we see that the Ninetales actually staying in. Vish is now going to go for a Psychic, and we can see. Big shield call here from Jakobovic, going to shield that up, protecting the Ninetales a little bit longer.
Yeah, really wants to keep that Ninetales protected. It is that Shadow Ninetales, so a Psychic would definitely be enough to take it out there. Now going for another Weather Ball to try and take this Metacham out. It's sort of interesting him staying in here. He does have Dragonair and Metacham in the back. You can sort of sometimes see it behind that thumb tapping away there. But he really sort of sees Ninetales as this is its spot, sort of getting this big damage through. And here actually comes the Arctivax looking to get a bit of farm on this Ninetales, but it isn't quite enough to be able to push through this Ninetales before it gets another big Weather Ball here. So Vish, not in a fantastic spot here, losing half of his Dragon already. I feel like Jakobovic is looking pretty good here with a quick swap into Medi, and there's the Charger Bug, and there's the Dragonair. Swap, 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 and here we are in a bit of a neutral versus neutral play.
Yeah, you're going to have to give the advantage here to Dragonair resisting those Volt Switches, but this Exorcism will do a very big chunk of damage. Puts it deep in the yellow. We see now that Jakobovic going for perfect timing, getting the Body Slam off. Vish is really in a tight spot now. He's got not much health remaining in his Pokemon. He's going to have to commit a shield and hope that he can get the next move off before Jakobovic gets to his next Body Slam. And we see, just in the nick of time, Jakobovic is getting that next Body Slam off. Perhaps a little bit greedy from Valiant Vish, trying to overfarm as much as he can to put some work into the Metacham, but just not able to make it work. And the farm down here from the Arctibax, but it's an uphill battle, that's for sure.
Oh yeah, when you've got a basically full health Metacham sort of sitting there in the back ready to take you on, you know you're in a fair bit of trouble there. So, we saw Vish give that little head movement after that move came through from the Dragonair. Like, yeah, I know what's come here. We know what's up. And yeah, Yakko sort of able to push through and get that first win against Vish. In sort of a spot where, like, we saw Vish swap his lead. And Yakko just stood there. He was like, hey, I'm happy to just keep this Ninetales around. Like, I've got my Medi and my Dragonair in the back. They're going to do heaps of work when they sort of come back across that Charger Bug a little bit later, which, like, neither of them are, like, Charger Bug counters per se. But, As you
No.
said, Dragonite is resisting those Volt Switches from the Charge Bug and is really just relying on the X-Scissor. But I don't think, I was not expecting that much damage to come through from the X-Scissor. That was immense.
Yes, that X-Scissor, with the recent buff in the not this season, but the latest season, X-Scissor does a lot of damage now, and you really have to respect the damage output from the Charger Bug. The one thing that I noted was that Valiant Vish was quite weak to that Shadow Kanto Ninetales, and Jakobovic made the most out of that. He called that there was not going to be a Lantern in back, or that he was dodging the Lantern and he was happy to make the most of that Kanto Ninetales while he had that advantage in the matchup. So very good recognition there from Jakobovic. This is kind of forcing Vish now to run a little bit more of a check to that Kanto Ninetales to make sure that he doesn't leave himself quite so open as he did in the first game.
Yeah, I think you're exactly spot on there, and I think he is going to have a slight pivot involved. He might not necessarily, he could pivot straight into the Lantern, just go straight for that sort of attempted hard counter, but at the same time, you've got the threat of Scorching Sands coming through from the Ninetales, so it's not like, as much as it's water versus fire, we're in a good spot here. It's actually still a relatively scary position to be in. You're sort of on edge. You want to make sure you can get through, maybe have a shield in tow as well. It's definitely not sorted, so he might sort of go for more neutral play at the same time. I could see, he could potentially pivot even to like a Lickitung just to sort of try and soak up the damage and not be so weak to that Ninetales, and sort of, I guess even against the Metacham, you've still got decent play there. So I could definitely see that sort of coming in, but I don't really see either of these guys moving away from their dragon strategies. Like, again, Yakko picked it up, and I think that they're doing such big neutral damage that as long as you don't end up with your Arctivax against the Metacham, you might be in a pretty good spot.
Yes, that's the hope. Hey, one thing to quickly note, though, as well, is that the Arctivax with that secondary Ice typing takes neutral damage from those Fire-type moves coming out of the Shadow Kanto Ninetales. So that's another advantage on Jakobovic's side there, that he's got a lot of neutral play with that Kanto Ninetales. With that Shadow bonus, it does so much damage, and you do really need to align that Lantern to the Ninetales if you want to have some sort of advantage going into the matchup.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, let's see what these guys did, and I do have a little note here that we do have one extra piece of scuffed in this particular battle because partway through, mikeymorgs accidentally hit pause on the record before we get back into it. So we'll have a slight, one of the screens will go black for a little bit, but it will come back, and we will have the other side the whole way through. But with that said, let's get back into game number 2, losers semis between Yakko and Valiant Vish, with another Ninetales into Metacham this time. And to be honest, I feel like Vish might just stay in this time. It's a little bit more neutral.
Yeah, while it's still neutral, the problem for Metacham is that it has to go for Psychic. The Ice Punches don't do a lot because they are resisted. But we see here a shield bait coming through. Ice Punch gets shielded by Jakobovic. Jakobovic goes, yeah, that's all right. I'll just throw my weather ball here and just keep chipping away.
Yeah, chipping away it will. Definitely going to start doing a lot of damage to this Metacham. And Vish, again, sort of is letting it go through. This Metacham is getting so incredibly low, and he's now throwing another Ice Punch, which Yakko, no shields here. He's going, nah, I can take this Ice Punch on my Ninetales. And actually a quick swap there to preserve. And Dragonair quickly taking out essentially sniping down the Medi. And now we're in a Dragon versus Dragon scenario. This is taking a wild turn.
This is a really good play here from Jakobovic. He saves a Weather Ball, and then he gets energy advantage on his Dragonair, which he knows is going to go far in this matchup. He does get the Body Slam shielded through there, but the Arctivax able to farm down on just a slither of HP. Jakobovic now having a little bit of a think, what am I going to bring in next? Thumb hovering over the Metacham, and it does bring it in, gets a counter through, and Valiant Vish going for the Dragon Claw, which is going to do some neutral damage, but not as much as an Avalanche would. No shield coming through from Jakobovic, and the Lickitungs in.
Yeah, this is I mean, it actually has brought in that neutral Lickitung with through the little pause in recording, and now this Metachamp gonna actually shield up the body slam. It never feels good to shield up a body slam when you're such a bulky Pokemon like Metachamp, but when you're getting this low health and you've got that much work left to do, it really does become more and more important. And now Yakko, after Vish going double Ice Punch, he's going for an Ice Punch of his own, trying to get a shield potentially out of Vish, but decides to let it go through. Again, a little bit of a head nod from Yakko, and catching the body slam onto Ninetales. Was he? I'm not sure if that was what he was hoping for based on that slight little head move from Yakko. Was he hoping to get a weather ball off? I'm not sure.
He had the weather ball banked, and I think his intention was to try and snipe the Lickitung before it could get off that move. But unfortunately did catch the body slam instead. And the Dragon Breath coming through, just able to knock out that Metachamp. Wow, another insanely close battle.
Yeah, I mean, that brings it up to 1-1, right? Like, that's really tightening the screws here. And this is still in best of 3 territory. While the previous battle was in the winners finals, so it was best of 5. This one was sort of only best of 3, which means with a 1-1 score, they're only one battle away, right? Like, someone is going to win on the next set of 1. And at this point, like, I'm not sure what you do, because so much of this gameplay is down to these sort of, like, I guess, neutral sort of positions, and that tends to come with the territory when you have Metachamps and Lickitungs running around. It's very sort of a little bit down to the minutia, where you throw the moves, where you go for baits. Are you successful with these baits? You know, can Yakko get a fire weather ball off? I'm sure that won't come back to bite him later on in the tournament either. But there's these, like, just small little things that I guess make you have to really think about your gameplay at a very high level, and that is why, like, these two are top 4, right? Like, they've got their skills in check. They know what to do. They just need to execute it, and I think that this next battle could seriously go either way. Like, it's hard to make a good prediction as to, like, what's going to happen, because I think it's going to be very similar in the sense that I'm expecting we're going to see Metachamps, and I'm expecting we're going to see Dragons. And from that 100%. Point...
It's anyone's guess.
Yeah.
And look, we still haven't seen that Lantern come out from Vish, and then Jakobovic has the decision to make. Do I want to bring in the Superior anticipating the Lantern, or do I just keep on keeping on with that the Medi, Dragon Imp, and Canine core that's been, you know, very consistent so far, despite close loss in that game number 2.
I mean, it's so dangerous to bring his Superior into Vish's team, where it's got an Arctibax and a Charjabug and a Gligar. Like, I'm not expecting the Gligar to get a lot of use, because that would be a pretty big call from Vish's end. But, like, it's a really, really scary team for Superior to sort of be facing. And with both of these battlers sort of, I guess, preferring that neutral game, I don't think that either of them are really going to shoot for the RPS potential, because I think they both know that they both have a chance to win in these neutral situations. So I'm not expecting it, but you never know when these sorts of things might sort of come through. And, like, again, like, these guys are sitting there thinking the same thing. They're like, I don't think Yakko's going to do this, so I'm going to go this way. Meanwhile, Yakko might be sitting there going, like, he's not going to expect this one, and just try and sneak through the door there. So look, either way, this is going to be a really incredible battle, and so let's get into battle number 3 and see who is going to take out well, actually, we're going to see the same lead again with Ninetales into Metachamp. So Yakko's going to need to play this one a little bit differently if he wants to try and get a win here. But is that a Superior? Oh no, that's a Dragonair. I was looking at the little switch box on the left hand side, but at the moment it looks like we're playing it very similar with an Ice Punch bait, and again, Yakko just shielding it up, being safe.
I was going to ask, is this game 2 on repeat? But no, I do believe this is a second game, a third game even. And we
you know what?
Oh
yeah, never mind. I thought I'd actually done an oopsie. Continue.
Continue. We're going on.
Oh no, we have indeed. We've scuffed it, guys. We were watching battle number 2, but you know, just ignore, like, Men in Black. And here we go into the actual battle number 3, Valiant Vish versus Jakobovic. There we go.
That's better. All right, Dragonair into the Lickitung. This is a very neutral matchup, but the Lickitung bulk does help to sort of win out this matchup in the 0s and 1s. However, in the 2 shields, Dragonair is often unable to be beaten. So we see now the body slam coming through from Jakobovic. Valiant Fish goes, yeah, I might shield that. Let's keep this Lickitung healthy.
Yeah, which again, it's the same thing. It's like, man, shielding up a Lickitung with like a relatively low energy move always sucks, but they're both doing it. They're both going, okay, I want to win switch advantage here. We're trying to avoid any RPS scenarios in the back. Let's try and muscle our way through. But like, and actually trying to make a catch onto the Umbreon on Yakko's side and a Medicham coming in from the other side. So Yakko sort of put himself in a little bit of an interesting scenario where you're a dark type against a fighting type, but that fighting type does not have a fighting charge move. There is no dynamic punch here. So Umbreon becomes that little bit safer and can really push through a lot of damage onto Vish's Medicham. So it could really just depend on where they want to invest their shields and their energy here.
Yeah, that's 100% correct. Like, the Umbreon can actually win the zero shields scenario, against the Medicham when it doesn't have that fighting coverage move. So we see here that Jukovic has drawn out the Medicham, possibly hoping to have done so to avoid a bad matchup in the back with the Medicham. Ice Punch is coming through. This is just going to chip away at that Umbreon. Umbreon has so much energy and so much bulk that it's just going to keep it putting on pressure here.
Yeah, seriously, like there's just constant pressure on both sides. Like I can't imagine being in these battlers' shoes and just staring down the barrel of this long matchup, knowing that someone's going to come out of victorious. Wow! Oh,
this is what I was talking about. The zero shield matchup is actually favorable for Umbreon. Slightest HP, gets the lick down, but no, quick swap out here from Jukovic, getting the dragon in, throwing the body slam. And Vish no shielding it, leaving it low, brings in his Arctibax.
Wow. I mean, look, those Dragon Breaths really doing a lot of damage to Arctibax, and now the full health Medicham comes in. Vish, again, knowing that this is not looking good because this Medicham is going to be able to counter all the way down. It is going to have to look at potentially eating this Avalanche here, but no, going to shield up, keep that Medicham a little bit healthier, and then, yeah, we're going to get a full counter down, and then in is going to come that little bit of a Lickitung, but that is a lot of Medicham that you'd have to fight through, so going to do his best. He's going to throw this body slam, but does a body slam do 75% to a Medicham?
I think if Vish was running the spicy moveset of Hyper Beam, he might have won that one. But then again, Open Team Sheets would probably have something to say about that.
I mean, look, we did see at least one Hyper Beam at the Brisbane Regional Championships. So
well, there you go.
Not out of the question, but potentially out of the question in this top 4 scenario. Although that's getting really, really close here. And like Yakko just not throwing those charge moves. But yeah, in the end, we do get to the spot where Yakko takes it out there with just a really well-placed Medicham and able to take out Valiant Fish with a 2-1. And to be honest, Fishy, like, I feel like the Arctibax was a little bit of like a dragging anchor to Valiant Fish. Like, he was just sort of keeping him behind a little bit. He was really trying to get it in a good spot where it could do well, but he just kept meeting Medicham again and again and again, and it did not go well for him.
No, he just really struggled to get that Arctibax where he wanted it, and Jukovic was pretty much all over it. I mean, he had the alignment that he wanted throughout the game and made some really smart plays just to try and get things aligned, how he wanted it. Playing the Umbreon with the zero shield scenario, recognizing that he can actually flip that Medicham matchup if Vish doesn't commit a shield, and then he could align his own Medicham to the Arctibax in the back. So great recognition there once again by Jukovic. It seems to be a pattern with him. He just recognizes where the value is in all his Pokemon.
Oh yeah, that's an understatement. Like, he's really just he's got a real skill in that, which I think is something that a lot of people don't sort of focus too much on. Like, there's so much focus on knowing your counts, knowing picking your team of 3 in general, but Yakko does have a really good in-game sense of where to sort of position his mons and where they might be important later on in the battle. And it's definitely sort of like taking down Valiant Fish is no easy effort for anyone on the planet. And he's got that world championship revenge after Valiant Fish sort of 2-0'd him on the main stage. Sort of was able to knock out Valiant Fish, who again played really well, just potentially a little bit of an unfortunate team composition going into Yakko with. And maybe you should have left the Arctibax at home potentially, but hey, you live and you learn, and you still go away with a lot of championship points ready to go into the next tournament in Melbourne in February. But with that said, we'll bring Debbie back on in. Hi, Debbie.
Hi.
To be honest, like we could get rid of Trotter's little box here, but do we keep it around as like a pet or like what's?
Wow, what a
In
call.
memoriam of Trotter.
Yeah, all right. He suggested we might put like a skull and crossbones in the little broadcaster slot, but we'll just keep it around because why not? Just a reminder that he's not here, or in with us in heart. But I mean, Debbie, we've just been through. We've seen sort of Valiant Vish sort of tapping off the bus in fourth place, which now means that we're down to our top three with Stumpy sort of waiting up there in the winners bracket. And
Yes.
down in the losers bracket, we have Rick Flareon versus, just recent champion Ikobovic, sort of forcing his way through there. So, it's going to be a good one, to say the least. So, we'll get into it, say hooray to Fishy Legs for a little bit, and we'll come in to take a look at the teams. So, we've got the Yakko team that we've just seen play out, and we have the Rick Flareon team that we saw a little bit up against Stumpy in that winners bracket for the sort of the half battle and the 2/3 of the battles that we got to see. So here we're going to get them in a little bit more length. So Debbie, sort of taking a look at the two teams that we have here in front of us, Yakko versus Rick, what is initially sort of jumping out at you as like a pick to sort of look out for, or something that might be a little bit interesting?
Look, firstly, where are the fairies? But secondly, what I think,
I mean,
what
the
I can see
dragons,
here
guys,
is like,
come on.
exactly. But let's talk about the dragons. Both of them are running Shadow Dragonair. So this could be a very, very quick battle if both the dragon breaths are going off at each other, if this happens to be a mirror. But I think with Yakko's team bringing that Kanto Ninetales and it being Shadow, Rick having that Registeel, I just don't see that coming out, or it would be very much you have to like almost you would almost never lead with it because like Yakko is so favorable for the Ninetales here. So that's kind of what's sticking out to me at initially. How about your thoughts, Steve?
Yeah, look, I mean, we saw K9 do an incredible job up against Valiant Vish in the last set of battles, and it definitely sort of has that opportunity here as well, and is really going to put a lot of pressure onto that onto the Registeel, to stay away. And again, we do know, because it is open team sheets, that it is double cannon, it is flash cannon, zap cannon, Registeel, which is sort of in a bit of a rough spot here up against Yakko's team. Like, flash cannon doesn't really give you a lot of value. There's no fairies here to sort of hit, which I'm assuming was sort of one of the larger motivations to bring flash cannon. You know, you're not hitting any carbons. Yakko is actually probably quite stoked that he hasn't brought a fairy into this particular matchup, because that Registeel is just nerfed so hard, and it kind of leaves like Rick Flareon with a little bit of a 5-person team. I mean, actually, like Reggie is still a useful mon. Like, you've still got a lot of work they can do with Zap Cannon up against the Lantern. I mean, even up against the Metacham, it's not too bad. But you really have to hope that you don't end up on that Ninetales, or you might be in some trouble. With that said, like, looking at Jakobovic's team, like, again, the Dragonair, like, we again just saw him do a lot of work with. I feel like it's got a lot of work they can do here as well. When you've got no fairy type, the only steel type on the team is Registeel. So as long as you can sort of avoid Registeel, you're also in not too bad of a position, because you're doing neutral damage to the rest of the cast of characters. And I mean, I guess best case, you might land up against the Lantern, because you resist all of Lantern's moves. And Rick Flareon, again, running the water gun variant. So you're sort of even slower to the charge moves. You've sort of got a lot of stalling to try and get yourself out of. Look, do you see any universe that we see Gligar come out on Rick's team? Because like, I don't know.
Well, I mean, like, I think Gligar still has a lot of play, though. Like, Jukovic doesn't I think Gligar would still be in a very neutral spot. I think it could still put a lot of pressure on. And it not being shadow type as well could take a lot of hits. So I wouldn't rule it out completely.
Yeah, and I think it like does have play here. You know, you've got Again, it's one of the... I feel like these teams, I'm looking at these two teams, and so many of them sort of matter where you land. It's like Gligar could be insanely good against like a Superior, could be pretty good against Medicham, can be pretty decent against a Ninetales. You have Play against the Lantern. I guess you're not really...
The Lantern also has Spark on Yako's team, so
true.
yeah.
You're not being hard countered by anything, I suppose. So actually, I think I've completely flip-flopped in the last 60 seconds. I've gone, you know what? Gligar's actually looking pretty decent on Ric Flair's team, and I'm sort of expecting that we might get a little bit of Gligar action. Because again, like we were saying it a little bit earlier about, some of these battlers really loving that sort of neutral play. I don't think that's really specific to those two in particular. I think it's pretty much across the board for a lot of these top battlers. Like a lot of them are sort of really looking for those neutral matchups where they can try and skill their way through, because no one likes to lose in an RPS fashion. It's just, you're really stuck and it feels like you can't skill your way out of it. So I think these guys are definitely going to be really pushing for those neutral matchups. And I think that might lead to things like a lot of Glygars, Lickitungs, Medichams, maybe some Umbreon. Dragonair definitely sort of has an opportunity to sort of come through as well, because they're just neutral damage. It can really go in a lot of directions, I think, is sort of the bottom line.
Yeah, I think there'll be a lot of familiar matchups coming up, considering like the compositions of both teams. And yeah, I back to the Gligar. I think it's a pretty solid pick. But
I can see.
It's a. I was like, Steve's trying to gaslight me here.
It was a test. I was just testing you. That's all it was. I was actually I was up for Gligar the entire time. But regardless, with all that said, let's just jump into the first game here. And we are actually now back into best of 5 territory. So every game for the rest of the stream is going to be best of 5, because we are now in the losers finals with Yako versus Ric Flairion. So someone's got to get up to 3 for us to sort of get our way through. So let's jump into game number 1 with Yako on the left with the Medicham going into the Gligar, where it has landed in a very, very good spot. So we see a quick swap into Dragonair and a quick swap into the Registeel as well, which is, oh man, this is not good for Yako.
Not good for Yako through here, but we also know that Dragonair still wins in the 2 shields versus Reggie. So we'll see how this still plays out. The chip damage still will chip away at this big, bulky steel thing.
Yeah, look, you're right. Dragon Breath is definitely going to slowly add up here. And we actually see Rick going for the spicy little flash cannon here. A Zap Cannon would be resisted against the Dragonair. Although I still don't able to hang on, though, and get this Aqua Tail off. Registeel is going to be able to take it. Registeel is a very bulky Pokemon. It can take that Aqua Tail pretty easily. And are we seeing no taps? Are we letting...
Yeah. With that, it was a very much a let it go and let the Medi just farm as much as it can here.
Yeah, and really, we will have to acknowledge that you are going to get hit by a Zap Cannon, but, you take that, you pray for no debuff, and you get no debuff. I'm assuming that's what the hand was going for, and now you get a full counter down on the Reggie. Here comes the Gligar, and you can now start throwing these Ice Punches that you farmed up into the Gligar, and actually Rick going for the no shield. He's letting the Ice Punch come through, which does a lot of damage. He can take 1, he can't take 2, and now we see a swap into the Umbreon with the Medicham coming in, and we saw this in the previous round. This isn't exactly a cakewalk for either Pokemon. It could definitely go either way.
Absolutely. Now, Rick going for a bit of chip damage here with the Ice Punch against this Umbreon through here. Now, Djokovic does have, I believe, now 2 foul plays banked up. Rick opting not to shield the first one through there, letting it go through, and that Medi is still quite healthy. It's still just a little bit into the yellow.
Yeah, it's definitely still got a lot of health on it, but we are seeing a lot of energy on that Umbreon as well. So the Ice Punch is going to, it's going to come through here. The Umbreon is getting really low, but it is going to get a chance to get this foul play off at least. Yako really playing on the edge here today, and we see a no shield from Ric Flairion. Going to let this one come through. It's not going to take out the Medicham, and is going for that second foul play as well. So he's managed to get the back-to-back here with some real interesting swiping technique from Djokovic coming through, but that still isn't quite enough to take out the Medicham, and now it's a swap in, and he doesn't. Rick does not get to the Ice Punch, which means that it is Medi versus Gligar time, and there's a bit of energy, Debbie.
There is plenty of energy on that Gligar. Now that first Aero Ace is going off there. Yakovic opting to shield there, waving his finger around, probably knowing that Rick has got a couple of Aero Aces there as well. Now, Yakovic actually going for the Psychic here with no bubbles, but Rick opting to shield.
Look, Yakovic is definitely keeping us entertained on the swiping bubbles front, but he's now going to try and do a big counter down, and Gligar going to take it out with the big wing attack farm down. So, well, that one is in the wrong spot. It is actually the other way around. Boop. Look, we said this from the beginning. This is going to be one scuffed stream, but we really do appreciate not only everyone for sort of coming out and bearing with us, but also a massive thank you again to Gone and Mikeymorgs for sort of recording these two perspectives, so we could put them together so that you can see all these like really incredible battles. So massive appreciation to both these guys. But we do see Rick Flareon taking it out in the end. That Gligar, as we were both talking about the entire time about how good it was going to be in these matchups, really just like lasting there on its bulk, taking an Ice Punch from Medicham to the chin and still going like, I'll be fine. I've got shield ready to go. I can sort of preserve this, get some more energy, even going into like, Yakovic farming up that energy on the Registeel, sort of trying to get that energy farmed up for the Gligar matchup. It just wasn't able to get enough. I was going to say in some sense maybe the not getting a Zap Cannon debuff helped, but then you'd be doing less with the Ice Punches, so maybe not. That might be a step too far.
Yeah, I think definitely the Gligar was the MVP of that particular matchup through there. And like I said, going for a non-shadow version, so a regular Gligar can take a lot as well. And those Aero Aces just build up so quickly. And even though we had that energy lead on that Medicham, still not enough. The game played out how it played out through the end there. And I think Yakovic going for that, maybe trying to go for that defense drop at the end with the Psychic. But alas, it still played out to Rick's favor at the end.
Yeah, exactly right. Like, he could have definitely, I think even if you got debuffed, you'd actually be in a decent spot with two Ice Punches doing a lot of damage. But yeah, Fishy Legs also, reminding us in the background that Dragonair does win the 2-shield matchup up against Registeel. So actually not as bad a matchup as I thought it was, although I assume that must be pretty close. Like that Registeel must be getting close to that sort of KOing move there. But I don't know, maybe not. Dragonair does get to those charge moves pretty quick. I might have to PV poke that one after this. But let's go into game number 2. Rick Flareon, again, 1 game up, but this is a best of 5. So there is still some distance to go going into game number 2. Oh, and we only have one perspective for a little.
Oh, okay. We've got Rick starting off with the Medicham against Yakovic's Kanto Ninetales. I'll say it right eventually. We're going off with a Psychic initially through here and just, making sure we hit all the bubbles and we'll see. Oh, and then we have the footage from the other side. Yakovic opting to shield the Psychic there.
Yeah, shielding up does not want to take all of that damage, but now we have the Ninetales coming in, throwing the Weather Ball, I think that is, up again. Oh, what was it? Was it a Weather Ball? I feel like it was a Weather Ball up against the Dragonair, and then swapping out into the Umbreon. Umbreon soaking up a lot of this damage from the Dragonair, and with Dragonair being a relatively squishy Pokemon, these foul plays really do start to add up quite quickly. I mean, look how much damage that does. Like, you can't take 2 foul plays, which is just a wild position to be in as a Pokemon facing down an Umbreon. And these body slams, like, as much as you get that shadow bonus, Umbreon still takes them pretty well. So you're really hoping to try and overwhelm with charge moves here from Rick Flareon's side, and he's definitely starting to add that up. And Yako, like, he's going to have a charge move here ready to go. But it's going to be a question mark whether Rick, and actually he no shields, he's going to let Dragonair go, and he's going to get a little bit of farm in the back, but not too much. This Umbreon isn't that healthy.
That's correct, but we know time and time again that Yakovic really relies on this Umbreon through here. Now, the Umbreon does go down as Medicham counters down here. Now, we've just got a mirror match through. We know that Rick has an advantage of the energy lead here, opting to go for the Psychic through. Now, we'll see if Yakovic decides to shield or not. He's having a think about it, and he does tap on the shield, protecting that Medicham here.
Yeah, huge call from Yakovlevich, saving himself from a lot of damage from that Psychic, and now throwing it back, and Ric Flair and making the exact same call correctly, shielding up the Psychic, does not want to let that through, and knows, having the energy advantage, that he will be able to get to another Psychic and put that pressure back onto Yakko, who does not have a shield. So this isn't going to quite be enough to KO his Medicham, but it is definitely going to start to bring it pretty low. But yeah, Rick quickly going for that swap out, because he knows that Medicham was going to get to another charge move eventually, and now it is Ninetales versus Reggie, which is not a spot that you traditionally want your Registeel to be, but because this Ninetales is sort of weakened, you might have a little bit of play here, but really taking a lot of damage here before he's going to throw this Zap Cannon. Like this, there is still no shields on Yakko's side, so this is actually looking pretty decent for Ric Flareon. This Zap Cannon, again, not hitting all of the bubbles, just really confident that Zap Cannon going to be enough there, and that he's just going to get taken out by that Medicham. And here's the energy from Yakovlevich, and this Psychic is well more than enough to take out Ric Flareon's Medi here, which means that it ties up the series 1-1.
1-1 there, and very, very well played by Yakovlevich there. But being able to get that, even out the scores through there, and also a lot of, very clever energy management to play that end, because we know it's just like it's Medi versus Medi, and we did see Rick with the energy lead and being able to just play it out at the end to actually land that last Psychic to take out Rick's Medi, just to finish it off nicely.
Yeah, it's one of those sort of spots that you get to a lot in Pokemon Go PvP, where one person has full health but no energy, and one person has lost a lot of health but has the energy in these mirror matches. For something like Lickitung, most of the time you're sort of up a creek, because Body Slams don't do that much damage, and so if you're already down a bit of health, then you're in a little bit of trouble. But when you're in a Medicham mirror match, and those Psychics do a fair amount of damage, you can really sort of, the energy can really be huge for you. And, we saw Ric Flareon not only get out of that matchup, but come in with, winning the matchup through a Registeel into a Ninetales Medicham sort of team that's just sitting there ready to go, and still coming out fine, again, because that, that Ninetales is weak enough that Registeel only needed that one charge move to KO it. There's one Zap Cannon definitely enough there, and then, able to come through in the end and take the Medicham down with the preserved energy in the back. So just a really, I guess, a thought through play from Ric Flareon, very sort of knowing how, or I guess predicting how the matchup was going to play out, recognizing that this energy on Medicham is going to be important later, and recognizing when his Registeel was sort of at its prime to be able to use in this scenario. Like, yeah, this is where I'm going to use my Registeel here. It's going to lose almost all of its health, but it is going to be incredibly important for me to win this battle here. And it's really just heads up plays.
Yeah, and like it's like, I think it just shows how Rick tried to fight back in there, and just unfortunate like at the end where Yakko did take it in the end, because he just did have just more health. And to get to that Psychic. So I think, it's, like I said, as we mentioned earlier, these are like, world-class battles. And the fact that, even in the middle, you weren't too sure who was going to win it, because it just didn't look into one particular person's favor. And it just shows the level that these two players are at.
Yeah, I think I concluded that point before I was making with Ric Flair and winning the battle, which is, look, you'll have to forgive me. But, these battles are now like matched up 1-1. It's a best of 5. So one of these battlers still needs to win another 2 games. And it's playing out in such a way that no one is in a dominant position. So I think that we might just have to get into game number 3 to sort of try and figure out who is going to take this thing out in the losers finals to get into the grand final. So going straight into a Medicham versus Gligar matchup, which I'm pretty sure this time I haven't replayed a battle. So we're going now with a swap out into Ninetales into Dragonair, which is not a great spot for this Ninetales, not only because it's taking a lot of damage from these Dragon Breaths, but because these Aqua Tails are really going to add up as well. So really going to have to try and pull out some tricks to take this battle out, Debbie.
Absolutely. Now, we can see here that Rick opting to shield this Weather Ball coming through, trying to preserve the health of this Shadow Dragonair. He's checking his Instagram. He's checking his Instagram. By the way,
And in one of the
see
most...
that Yako did a...
Oh, Jakobovic. Going down with a weather ball that he had, all because of the app swipe. He's gone from like an okay position where he could have at least tried to get a shield out of Ric Flair and potentially to a situation where he is so far behind. He has lost all of that energy. He's lost all of that health. And now he's just like, okay, how do I even get out of this scenario? Like, I've got this Medicham here. We're facing that Dragonair. Like, oh, this Dragonair still has a ton of energy as well that I have to face down. We're seeing the, shield come out of Yako, but that is such a blunder from Jakobovic. Oh my gosh.
It was comedy at its finest on the floor. And in this game of RPS, I think regardless of the situation, that we still play this out. And obviously the Ice Punch going through onto that Gligar, and Rick opting to just let this Gligar go at this stage. But knowing comfortably how this will play out through here. And Jakovovic's Dragonair is full of health here, but this Medi did have a lot of energy and a lot of energy lead as well. So this Ice Punch will go through and will comfortably take out this Shadow Dragonair. Yeah. Oh no, it still had hung on a little bit and a couple counters down, but this that battle was over at that point, unfortunately.
Oh yeah, look, you're exactly right in that, like, it was probably like Yako was already in a really bad position, sort of in the battle, but when you just decide to swipe away and throw away one of your entire charge moves, it only gets a whole lot worse. So definitely provided a lot of comedy, and it's not something you see very often in the losers final of a battle. Like as a Samsung user, it definitely scares me. It's like, oh no, can this really happen at any time? I need to make sure that I don't do this. Just let's stay far away from the bottom of the phone screen, right? So we can just avoid this happening. But it definitely led to one of my favorite tweets from the event, with Jakobovic responding to the a claim that he was good at this game, with just a clip of that, and definitely a highlight.
Absolutely. I think the tweet was Rick's tweet, and then that, Rick acknowledging how well Jakobovic played during the tournament, which Jakobovic replied with, like, yes, flawlessly, in quotation marks, with the video of him swiping away from the Pokemon Go app, almost closing down the whole entire app in itself.
Attempt to close down Pokemon Go, then have to try and get back into Pokemon Go. Yeah, it's just a really unfortunate spot, and and it is a case that is very much the player's mistake, so it isn't like a disputable or a reviewable moment in the game, unfortunately. But
user error indeed.
Yeah, definitely user error. But in the competition, like, Jakobovic is sitting there, like, he is now one game away from being eliminated. Like, this is a very like it's such a screw up. Again, he probably would have lost the battle anyway if he just sort of play out some scenarios. It's like, oh, this already wasn't looking great for him, but it definitely sort of puts you on a bit of a, like, it knocks you down a bit. It's like, oh dang, now I really can't sleep off now. I have to win the next 2 in a row to stay in this tournament, and Ric Flareon is not going to make that easy. So let's jump into game number 4 with these 2 absolute titans of Australian PvP. And I will see Ric Flareon just try and clinch this out with essentially match point in game number 4, with a Dragonair on Jakobovic's side versus the Medicham over on Ric Flareon's. And again, this is sort of a bit of a neutral-ish spot where those Ice Punches are really going to hurt, but you can just see Medicham's health draining, to these Dragon Breaths. Like, it's going down quick. So if Yako wants to burn these shields, then he could definitely sort of push through and try and get that switch advantage.
Yeah, that's correct. The Dragon Breaths are so oppressive. Now, Yako going for a body slam here. Rick opting to shield just to preserve the health of this Medicham, knowing that, these Dragon Breaths are adding up. And, going for a quick switch there as well, and bringing out his Reggie. Now, Yako off seeing this as well, going for his Umbreon and landing that first foul play through here. Rick is thinking about it, and opting not to shield, letting it go on the Reggie, knowing that the Reggie can take this.
Yeah, this is one of those spots that because Rick Flareon does not have Focus Blast on his Registeel, he's traded in for Flash Cannon, we're just going to have to go straight for the Zap Cannons here, trying to weaken it down this Umbreon. No debuff on that first one, that 1 in 3 chance coming through, and it's just going to be, I guess there's a little bit of a better matchup for Umbreon, because you do have more opportunities to get these fair plays through. You can try and weaken down the Registeel a little bit more, but yeah, Rick Flareon just, this is one of the worst spots to be stuck with a Flash Cannon Registeel. Again, with Yakko having no fairies, I mean, most spots are a bad spot to have Flash Cannon Reggie here, but these Zap Cannons definitely adding up. And is that another no debuff? 2 in a row?
And 2 in a row. Just unlucky on Rick's side, unfortunately. 1 in 3, maybe just like, 1 in 10. Who knows? But it seems to not play out in his favor in this matchup. Yukovic going for the Aqua Tail there, bringing that Reggie down to us, just a sliver of health. And Rick managing to get that Flash Cannon off through here. Going for a little bit of a swipe. 3 bubbles should do it. And taking that Shadow Dragonair out through there. Yukovic has dropped his phone. He's having a think, maybe having a little bit of a break and coming back into the game with his Medicham. Rick quickly swapping out there with his own Medicham, and we'll see how this Medicham mirror plays out.
Yeah, look, we're again in a spot where there is definitely some energy over on Rick Flareon's side. Yakko, again, correctly shielding the Psychic from that Medicham, so he's able to come through. He's trying to counter all the way down by the looks of it, but he doesn't get there, which means that Rick Flareon is going to get 1 extra Ice Punch through. This is not going to be enough to KO Yakko's Medicham. It is going to survive here, and he's going to be able to still counter all the way down. Rick Flareon sort of, again, going for another Ice Punch, really just trying to do as much as he can. If he'd gone all the way up to a Psychic, then Yakko could have quite comfortably thrown an Ice Punch to make sure that it didn't come through. But now this Medicham is loaded with energy, ready to sort of take on whatever Rick decides to bring in, whether it is that Dragonair or the Registeel that he has as well. And Dragonair in some ways is a bit of a better spot for Yakko, because it means that this energy has somewhere to go. Like, these Ice Punches are incredibly threatening to that Dragonair, but a catch! Catching the move into Registeel. Great play from Rick.
Fantastic play from Rick here, just opting not to, just counting down, getting that shield off. But now that the Registeel wasn't quite at the end of the health there, and so a few counters are off, so Yukovic able to land that last Ice Punch, taking out the Dragonair on Rick's side, evening out the scores, now to 2-2.
Look, we had
Umbreon. I'm so sorry. We had an Umbreon there.
Going for a bit of a combo play with the foul play coming in, and still not quite enough to take out that Dragonair. But yeah, finally snarling it down, and it does mean that Yukovic ties it back up to 2-2. Turns out it's a lot easier when you don't just close the app mid-game to try and get a win through. If you just, throw the energy that you actually have. Just really, again, some very heads-up play from Yakko in going like, I can counter all the way down. And Ricky's in a spot that many of us have been in the past, where he was like, if I go up to the Psychic, I know I still lose. I know that he's going to KO me before I can get to this Psychic, and it is what it is. And so you're like, oh, well, do I do that? Or do I just keep going for these Ice Punches? Which gives Yakko the confidence to go he's never getting to a Psychic if he keeps throwing these Ice Punches. So I never have to worry about being KO'd. And it's like, okay, I guess we'll just keep on farming. It's a really tricky spot, and it's difficult to know exactly what you should do when you are in that position. Rick was sort of in a bit of a struggle street situation where both sort of options, you really get put in a bad position, because Yakko is still going to come away with a lot of energy to throw into your next Pokemon. He really did try and pull out all the stops there with a swap and catch onto that Registeel, but he was just a little bit too far behind at that point, I think.
Yeah, definitely. It is a difficult situation when you are at that point, and making that quick decision as well, that split-second decision to be like, do I Psychic, do I double Ice Punch? What is the better play here? And sometimes, it is just going, well, I've just got to take a gamble and see where the cards fall after you just do that. And we can see how that played out in this match here.
Yeah, exactly right. And it does put us into this 2-2 scenario again. So we're actually back for the second time. I mean, the first time we may not have got to see all 5 battles, but at least this time we have seen all of the 2-2 that brought us up to this final game 5 in the losers bracket. Yakko versus Rick Flareon. Again, both of these guys incredibly successful battlers, both of them winning a tournament in Melbourne to qualify themselves for their respective world championships. But these guys are really going to have to play their best to try and win out this last game 5. So let's jump into game number 5. Only one of them progresses through to the grand finals. Let's see who it is going to be. Jakobovich versus Rick Flareon with an Umbreon on the left and a Medicham on the right. Again, a relatively interesting position where without a dynamic punch, this Umbreon can seriously do a lot of work up against this Medicham. So we'll have to wait and see what these battlers do. But Yakko going straight in with a last resort, a slightly higher damage move. Interesting to see if he's going to try and swap out here, if he's just going to let that come through, but it looks like he's staying in at least to eat an ice punch from this Rick Flareon.
Absolutely, from this Ric Flair. We know that Umbreon can take quite a lot. So he probably will stay here for just quite a bit and just taking all these ice punches and just farming up that energy, because we know Umbreon with energy is so powerful as well.
Oh, absolutely. It can be a devastating force if it is in a bad spot against you. But Yakko getting pretty low here and now throwing this foul play onto the Medicham, who is going to no shield here and still stay alive and is now going to be able to counter that Umbreon all the way down, which means that Yakko is going to come in here with a Medicham of his own and again try and get some sort of farm action going. But Rick staring down the energy that he has there, ready to throw this Psychic. This is definitely going to do a big chunk of damage to Jakobovich's Medicham, but it is going to be able to survive, so we can sort of comfortably take it. The defense drop comes through, the 1 in 10 chance. Rick Flareon may have been unlucky on those Registeel Zap Cannons before, but all of the luck was just saved up for that Psychic. And all of a sudden, Yakko is in this spot that charge move could have been incredibly damaging for him, and he needed to shield up an Ice Punch from Rick Flareon, which is terrible to see for Yakko.
Exactly. Now, because of that defense drop, Rick can comfortably actually bring his Gligar in here, still opting to shield this Ice Punch coming through, but knowing that it is going to take less damage than usual because of that defense drop.
Yeah, exactly right. So Yakko really has to try and pull out every stop he can. The first Ice Punch going through and again bringing that Gligar right down, and now he swaps into the Dragonair, trying to do a bit of damage here while also clearing out that defense debuff from the Medicham. So he will be able to, this dig is going to do a lot of damage, but it will be able to survive, and he's now going to try and Dragon Breath all the way down. We see a swap out into the Registeel, and now there is still a lot of work for Jakobovich to do. He's got all of this energy on Dragonair, but it doesn't do that much because it is such a bulky Registeel. These Aqua Tails are going to start to land though and start to chip down. It's just going to be a question of, does Yakko have enough in the tank to push through everything Rick Flareon has, which includes a shield, Debbie. It's going to be close.
It is going to be incredibly close through there. Now, Rick has both cannons ready to go, but opting to try and lock on down through here. Jakobovich, now we have that Flash Cannon going through. No bubbles, no needed through here, and Jakobovich letting this Dragonair go down comfortably.
Yeah, it does go down, and now Medicham comes back in. It's going for the counter down by the looks of it, but there's Zap Cannon here, ready to go. Yakko has the shield. He's shielding up the Zap Cannon here, and he just needs to keep on tapping on the screen. Counter, 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 counter.
Counter through there, and in this situation through here, not opting to throw any moves and managing to counter a Gligar, which in any any written situation would not, it would not be in this favor. But managing to counter down a Gligar, which is huge, and managing to take out that final match in that best of 3, 3 to Jakobovich and 2 to Rick Flareon.
Yeah, really just clinching it out, such tight battles all the way through and coming down to such fine, again, it's just such skilled battles, and it is so unfortunate that we don't get to see more of this sort of stuff, because these guys are just incredible. Again, this could have been a grand finals, this could have been a world champions match. This is just really, really good stuff. These guys both know what they're doing. They're both playing these versatile matchups that is all about neutral damage, where you have the energy, where you shield, being able to prepare for those those 1 in 10 chances to get a defense debuff. Like, Yakko got debuffed and then was still able to figure his way out through to win the battle, recognizing, like, okay, I can still get enough damage here if I need to swap out to Dragonair so I can clear that debuff, because I'm going to need that health on Metacham later on. I'm going to need to sort of force my way through here. And he's just able to recognize that, identify it, and then carry it out. And it is just such high skill. Like, I couldn't do that. I can say that well, clearly. But, you know, these guys are just incredible battlers, and Jukovic sort of pushing through and landing himself a spot in the grand finals in, I think it's only his first tournament outside of Melbourne that he's ever played. So, you know, he's coming straight for the hot seat, and now he's going to have to face Stumpy in the grand finals. But before we get into that, let's bring back our good friend Fishy Legs too, because incredible sets, Fishy.
Yeah, that was unbelievable. Like, Metacham countering down a Gligar for the Game 5 win. Like, it's just, does it get any closer than that? Is what I want to know. There's just unbelievable battles from both trainers at an incredible skill level.
Oh, you could say that again. Like, these guys seriously know what they're doing. But it does mean, like, we're at Yakko versus Stumpy, which is sort of a matchup that I don't think, you know, anyone's sort of ever seen play out before. It's sort of a bit of a newer one. Again, it's sort of an unknown quantity in Stumpy, who hasn't been seen on the Play Pokemon circuit. And since, like, way back in 2022, at, like, the very start of everyone battling for the first time. Like, it's hard to know what to expect going into that sort of battle, right?
Yeah, I mean, you've got the unknown quantity versus the tried and trusted, cold and calculating Jukovic. You know, he's made a huge run through the losers bracket, and he's on form. You know, he's just taken out 2 of Australia's top battlers. But then you've got Stumpy, who hasn't lost a set yet. So it's just, you know, where will the cards fall when they get dealt?
No, that's exactly right. We will. Just needed to change. Well, okay, we have a slight delay in getting Fishy Legs' name on the screen here on this next screen, but we'll just jump into it so that you have a chance to sort of look at the teams. And I swear, Fishy Legs will eventually get a name. But regardless, let's jump into the grand finals. Again, a situation where Stumpy needs to only win 1 set, and he will be the Brisbane Regional Champion, whereas Jukovic needs to come through, win 1 set to reset the bracket, and then win again in these best 5 sets. So it's going to be good.
Oh, yes, I can see where the name is not there. All right, so now we're into the grand finals. So as mentioned, Stumpy has come through in the winners bracket, has won. He's comfortable in his spot in a grand final, and Jukovic has come through the losers bracket all the way through, and as mentioned, has taken out Vish, has taken out Rick, and now its final opponent will be Stumpy through here, but he has got this uphill battle. So Fishy Legs, now seeing both teams and both team composition, what stands out to you at the moment?
You have to hand it to that Superior on Jukovic's side. It has so much potential here. Even up, if it has a 1 Vine Whip head start, it can flip the Frostlass matchup. You know, it can put in some serious work against Registeel in the 2 shields if the Reggie, you know, neglects to shield early and doesn't get that Zap Cannon debuff off. Like, it's, and then of course you've got the positive matchups with Swampert and Carving. So I think that Superior is going to be on the watch list for Stumpy. He's going to have to be prepared for it for sure. But I mean, aside from that, obviously there's a lot of neutral play going around with. I think even Carving, you know, has a lot to offer here in the set. Like, you can hit back against the Lantern and the Metacham and all those sorts of Pokemon, and obviously hardballs the Umbreon. So that's my quick little analysis. Debbie, what are you seeing?
Yeah, I totally agree with the Superior here. Definitely, I don't think Stumpy has something that, like, really the Superior really does. Would be something that you would see quite common or being brought quite often. This Swampert on Stumpy's team, I don't know if it would be even brought out. I wouldn't risk it in this kind of circumstance through here. But in saying that, with Stumpy's team, yeah, like you mentioned, the Carbink, would you still want to bring your like the Ninetales out that Jukovic has been like favoring in a few other games as well, and I think from Stumpy's team, it's going to be a bit hard to work around Jukovic's team. I think Frostlass is a good pick, but again, the Umbreon is there as well. So it's going to be a bit difficult. I think both team compositions being so different, the only thing that I can see that's similar at the moment is the Medicham. So maybe there'll be a lot of Medicham mirrors, but again, it is going to be a tough to bring like some confident lines, I would say.
Yeah, I agree 100%. It's going to be a matter of trying to get them on where you want them. Obviously, in Stumpy's head, like he knows that he can't counter swap this Frostlass into the Serperior. So he has to make a call of does he lead the Frostlass or does he let it in the back? And then obviously Jukovic is having the same thoughts. So I guess we just have to go ahead and see what happens in the matchup.
Absolutely. Let's get right into it. Now, we only have one screen of play here. Thank you to ZoeTwoDots for the footage through here. And this is Jukovic. Oh, no, is this not? No, this is Jukovic's view. So we had that Lantern. Now it's been a swap to another swap to another swap. We've got this Superior against this Registeel here. Now, opting to go for that first Frenzy Plant to do some damage onto this Registeel with that stab damage through here.
Yeah, and as I was saying earlier, this is not like as comfortable of a matchup as you would think for the Registeel. Like if Jukovic calls a Zap Cannon here, he can definitely still be in a very good spot. He knows shields. It is the Zap Cannon. Does not get the attack drop as well. So now these Frenzy Plants are still going to keep adding up. You say Jukovic is almost at 2 back-to-back Frenzy Plants already.
That's correct. So these Frenzy Plants will add up, and this will go through again. The Reggie now into the yellow, about like 30% through there, and now this another move of this Zap Cannon should go through here. Jukovic opting to shield. Oh, sorry, a Focus Blast has come through here, and yeah, we can see that Frenzy Plant. We're getting up to double Frenzy Plant through here, and Jukovic opting to fire that charge move again.
Playing dangerously close to the edge of his screen as well. He hopefully doesn't tap out on this game as well, but it does get the KO on the Registeel. Has now got Switch back in his favor, so he can avoid having that Swampert onto his Lantern, and this is forcing the Medicham to come out from Stumpy, but this Superior has so much energy.
Has double Aerial Ace through here and is firing the first one off, and I think it'd be safe to shield, but opting not to shields, and now we're going through and actually a Frenzy Plant through here, which I believe does a little bit more damage than the Aerial Ace.
Yeah, the Stab Frenzy Plant's just a little bit more energy efficient, more damage through there. Does get countered down though by the Medicham. Medicham shields the high damage move of the Frenzy Plant. And now it's going to elect to start throwing some moves into this Lantern.
Opting not to shield there. The Lantern is so bulky and taking that Psychic quite comfortably through there. We can see that with both... It is quite neutral through here, but and there we go for a swap. I believe that was a Swampert that has been brought out. So this Surf will land on that Swampert and do a bit of chip damage through there.
Yeah, I think Stumpy was hoping to catch a Thunderbolt there, but does not quite get it off. The Surf does some good neutral damage, and now the Medicham is going to put some really hard pressure onto the Swampert with those neutral counters, just adding up a lot more than the Mud Shots do. But we see the first Hydro Cannon coming through, puts the Medicham quite low, now into half health. The next Hydro Cannon coming through, Jukovic has a decision to make. Do I preserve this Medicham and try to go for a counter down? Yes, he does shield, looking to farm this Swampert all the way down, has a stack of energy ready for this mirror matchup in the back.
Absolutely. Going for the first Ice Punch through here on this Medicham and quite comfortably having so much energy on there. Stumpy opting to shield, and we can see Stumpy throwing his final move here. Jukovic not having any shields here. Will have to tank whatever's in through this move through here. It is a Psychic, but it does hold on and manage to get that last Ice Punch through while on a sliver of health.
Yeah, the Ice Punch now going to connect with the Medicham. Medicham just hanging on, but the Lantern is coming back in. It's just too healthy and sparks down that Medicham for what we would say probably almost a comfortable Game 1 win there for Jukovic.
Yeah, that Lantern was like still half health through there at the end, and although that Medicham lineup was so close, yeah, having a half health Mon in the back, very, very comfortable in that Game 1.
Yeah, and so now here the adjustment has to come from one of these two trainers, or potentially both trainers, where you see that Stumpy did win lead somewhat with his Swampert into the Lantern, but Jukovic just knows that he can quite comfortably safe swap that Superior and win switch if the Registeel doesn't commit shields, which we saw play out in game one. So Stumpy's going to have to really think twice now about, does he bring the Registeel? Does he try to go for that switch again? But it's just going to be a huge bowl of mind games now to try and make the most of this game two.
Yeah, absolutely. I think and we're going straight into game two here. We can see Jukovic with the Lantern, and there we see the swap. Stumpy bringing in the Frostlass, leading with the Frostlass this time, hoping maybe like a superior lead, but we can see instead we do have that Lantern. Jukovic going for that Surf to just do a bit of chip damage onto that Frostlass.
Yeah, Frostlass tanks that Surf, not quite half health, puts it below the half mine, and now we see that Stumpy has queued up the move. Is it going to be the Shadow Ball? Jukovic is comfortable to take it either way, and it is that Shadow Ball down into the yellow health, and is counter swapped now by the Medicham. Thunderbolt coming through from the Lantern.
Yeah, going for the Thunderbolt here, trying to do as much damage as possible on that Medicham. Medicham taking it quite comfortably, and there we go for the swap into both the mirror of the Medichams.
Yeah, and this is quite comfortable now for Jukovic's Medicham, that there's a considerable amount of chip damage. Even at the energy deficit, you can just pretty comfortably chip away at the Medicham, go for a couple of Psychics and see it on its way, and then you've got that alignment back where you want it. However, if that Frostlass does come back in and starts to make take advantage of the potential farm down from the Medicham, Stumpy will have a lot of play in the back.
Yeah, absolutely. It'll be depending on that switch timer as well. Now, Jukovic actually going for an Ice Punch here and actually not charging it all the way up. So hoping maybe to counter down after this. But we'll see what Stumpy throws through here. And Jukovic actually, is he hovering? Is he not shielding the Psychic and letting that Medicham go?
This is a really heads-up play here from Jukovic. He's not going to let that Frostlass get ahead on energy. He brings in his Superior, knowing that shields, up energy, this Superior is going to put in a serious amount of work. Now comes the Frostlass to try and get some shields back off, but goes for the catch unsuccessfully onto the Swampert. This is shocking news for Stumpy.
Stumpy. Now with the Frenzy Plant going through on a Swampert, and we know that Swampert, even if it's just a leaf touches it, it doesn't do very well. So having a double Frenzy Plant here, I think it's quite comfortable for Jukovic to just fast attack down there. And game two going to Jukovic there. Again, unfortunately, very comfortably as well.
Yeah, never trust a Swampert to mow your lawn, that's for sure.
100%. But a very unfortunate in that situation, and having that Swampert in the back. I think having that lead of that Frostlass, hoping maybe that Superior would be in the lead, so leaving that Swampert, just being like, okay, well, if it's in the lead, I can like safely bring it out later. But unfortunately, Jukovic maybe possibly reading into that and having that Superior at the back going, well, this is my safest swap, and it can pretty much take a good chunk of Stumpy's team as well.
Yeah, absolutely right. And now Stumpy is on the back foot for the bracket reset. Jukovic is putting in a lot of momentum here. He's only one battle away from putting himself into that grand final reset bracket. Stumpy is going to try his darndest not to let that happen. But once again, that Superior is just so difficult to remove. And Jukovic is just making, as he has been doing all day, making the most value out of the Pokemon where he can.
Yeah, absolutely. He's very good at his balancing of his teams, and good at team reading as well, which is a deadly combo, especially into the grand final as we're leading up through here. Stumpy is on the back foot here. We have to look for a reverse sweep, basically, because Jukovic is 2-0 in this best of 5. So heading into game 3 really will be the decider. Well, not a decider, but we'll see where the momentum goes after this.
Absolutely right. And if we can get our way into the battle now and see where this goes, we have the Superior in the lead now into the Medicham. One very neutral matchup, that's for sure.
Yeah, very much so. And then we have through here so the superior lead with the Medicham. We can see Jukovic going for the Frenzy Plant. And this Frenzy Plant, if it will land, does do a fair chunk on the Medicham as well. But knowing the Medicham can also take it.
Yeah, puts the Medicham under half health. Ice Punch, I would imagine, is coming back in retaliation now. The superior can also take this quite comfortably and often will win CMP, the charge move priority. So Jukovic in a little bit of an advantage here in that he can go for the moves, but an amazing catch by Stumpy. I believe that was onto his Lickitung. Aerial Ace coming through, hits the Lickitung, does a dismal amount of damage.
Oh, just tickles it there through. And now going for that possible lick down, it looks like. And then Jukovic reading it correctly and swapping out and catching it on the Medicham through there.
Yeah.
His body slam will do a little bit of damage through. And yeah, just maybe just, who knows, maybe a lick down through there.
Yeah, Jukovic very cleverly storing a Frenzy Plant for later in the game. Now he's coming in with his Medicham. He's going to eat a couple of body slams here, but investing a shield, wants to get that switch alignment. He's going to go for a charge move very soon. Goes for the Psychic. Now, this is a call from Stumpy because he would survive an Ice Punch. Does he call the Psychic and elect to shield, trying to keep pressure on? And no, he lets it go.
Lets it go through there. So now we have to see what Stumpy's taking his time, calculating what's the best play here, and brings back his Medicham into the Medicham mirror. Jukovic now being able to get off this Ice Punch. And is it in that Ice Punch range?
Oh, I don't think it's quite in Ice Punch range. Looks like it just hangs on with what looks like to be a quarter of its health left. Next move coming through from Stumpy's end. The Psychic goes through unshielded. And now the Lantern is on the field, and it's Reggie still on the back. The shields are even, and this is going to be a close game.
It's going to be terribly close here. Jukovic going for the Thunderbolt, making sure getting all the bubbles through there because this Reggie Steel is so tanky. Opting to shield though, Stumpy, and trying to preserve the health on this Reggie.
Yeah, electing to shield before he gets his Zap Cannon off, hoping to get the debuff and then reduce the amount of damage output. And he does get the debuff, so now he's going to be able to take those reduced attacks from the Lantern. But Jukovic comes back in with a Frenzy Plant for the combo play, storing some energy on his Lantern.
That was so quick to see, and letting this superior go, maybe getting locked on down through there, not quite getting to the Aerial Ace. Now that Reggie does have a bit of energy, and Jukovic opting to shield here to preserve the health of this Lantern.
Yeah, he goes for the Zap Cannon. Does he get another debuff? No, he does not. Jukovic farming up a little bit more, watches for the catch. Unsuccessful catch from Stumpy, and the Surf is coming through. But he's going for the undercharge. He's trying to maximize the amount of energy he comes out with for here to try and get that last Thunderbolt off. It'll be a race to the last move. Does Stumpy have a move stored? And no.
Going for a Surf here. Is Surf enough to take it out through? Or will you need a couple through here? But I believe, and just managing to, there we go, double Surf, managing to take out that Registeel through there quite easily, and still even having, I think, a little bit more energy at the end as well.
Yeah, that's right. I think a Thunderbolt might have sealed the deal there, but Jukovic just wanted to make sure, just in case.
Yeah, just making sure through there. And now we've got a 3-0. So it is officially into bracket reset land. Jukovic comfortably taking the grand final. And now we're into bracket reset. So Stumpy has just got to recollect his thoughts here and being like, well, we just saw that. Oh, now I'm PvP Steve. But we just saw what happened through there. See how he can basically come on this back foot and try and claim it out on the actual finals.
Yeah, we've got a clean slate now, so to speak. Stumpy, obviously behind on the momentum side of things. Jukovic with a very dominant 3-0 sweep in that reset matchup. So now it's going to be a real test of Stumpy's resolve to try and make sure that he doesn't let this match get out of hand any further than where it has been.
Yeah, absolutely through there. And yeah, we're heading back to the main screen and back to Steve.
Muted. Hi. I called
of course
it, so it doesn't count. All right, that's how it works. If I can re-hit the button before anyone calls me out on it, then it doesn't count. That's
It's not Uno. You can't just be like reverse or like, Uno, like,
Skip.
I can do my best, all right. But look, they were definitely some just wacko. Like Yakko just absolutely cleaned up. Like that was an absolutely dominant 3-0. It puts Stumpy on a real back foot where he's like, I was the only undefeated battler in this tournament. I am now like really fighting for my life here. There is like only one set left to go. I need to win this to not only win the Brisbane Regional Championship, but also qualify for that World Championship straight away. So, meanwhile, Yakko is going like, I'm on a tear here. I've just like, look at what's right behind me. I just took down Ric Flair and I just took out Valiant Fish. And that was after a day of taking on really incredible opponents like Mikey the day before. So like, he's just momentum insane. And Stumpy has been like cruising along. Like I say, cruising along. He took out Ric Flair earlier in this exact same day as well, and he's the only undefeated battler. And like this team, it feels like has really thrown him for a loop. And so he's got to figure out what to do pretty quick, to say the least.
Yeah, that's for sure.
Let's jump into. Bye, Debbie. Jump back into the team instead of resetting ourselves back to 0-0 again. Another best of 5, and whoever gets the 3 here wins the entire thing. But I mean, Fishy, we just saw Yakko running the exact same 3 Pokemon 3 times in a row. It's Lantern, it's Superior, it's Medicham. Is there any reason for Yakko to do anything except that exact same trio again?
No, I don't think there is. It's obviously proven to be very effective against Stumpy's team. He's got the Pokemon aligned where he's wanted them in these 3 games, and he's just played out his neutral matchups with absolute precision. He hasn't let anything sort of get out of hand, whether the Registeel into Superior matchup or anything like that. So I do think for Stumpy, he's the one that has to sort of break the trend here. He needs to do something different, and he needs to try and force an error out of Jakobovic, really.
Yeah, exactly right. Stumpy really needs to try and exploit sort of a weakness that that Jakobovic shows, but there hasn't been a lot of that ready to exploit at this stage, And Stumpy's really been trying. He's been looking for these opportunities where he can try and catch a move, and the catch just never comes. Yakko is just too patient, too ready for those catches. He's aware of those win cons, and he's doing an incredible job at avoiding it. So, look, Stumpy's really going to have to try and find that going into game number 4, and I'm expecting a very similar team from Yakko. At least Stumpy's been, trying out some new stuff. He brought in Frostlass, he brought in Reggie, he brought in Licky, he's brought in Swampert, he's brought in Medi, so he's brought 5 out of his 6. He just hasn't brought Carbink because, look, I don't know if anyone's going to be bringing Carbink into a Lantern Superior lineup that is coming out again and again. But hey, we'll see. So let's jump into game number 1, but kind of game number 4 for the grand final reset with a starting off point of a Lantern into the Medicham. So, a little bit of a neutral spot for Stumpy. He has a chance of trying to get himself out here. But we saw we saw a Medicham lead in the last game, but it was against the Superior. So it is sort of a brand new, fresh start. So Stumpy definitely sort of looking for any chance he can to try and fight his way through here.
Yeah, that's right. And this matchup is, now that the Spark is doing a little bit more damage than it has done in previous seasons, it's actually a little bit in Lantern's favour. It only really needs to learn 2 moves, and it forces the Medicham to go for Psychics because those Ice Punches are resistant. So we see that Stumpy has taken a move. He's going to switch into his Lickitung. Jakobovic is going to greet that with a little bit of a chip and dip, as we'd like to say, and he's going to, I imagine, look to switch out here into his Superior.
Yeah, keeping a Surf ready to go later on in the matchup, and then swapping into the Superior, who has a very strong neutral matchup up against the Lickitung. The Frenzy Plants do a lot of damage with that same type attack bonus as well, and Lickitung does not love to see them. But before we get there, Yakko just staying patient again. We're going to see another Body Slam come through from Stumpy's side. Going to be able to quite comfortably take that before farming up potentially to 2 Frenzy. Okay, we're not going to quite get to 2. but we are going to throw this first one here that I guess I feel like Stumpy is likely to let this go through. It feels like you're not going to be protecting a lot on this Lickitung, but it does hang on. And is it going to be able to get to a body slam? It does!
Ooh.
Forcing a shield out of Yakko here. This is definitely not where he was hoping to be, and this could be the advantage that Stumpy needs to try and push this game through.
Yeah, that was a really well left frenzy plant on there from the Lickitung. Knowing that he could survive, get off another body slam, and now the Registeel is going to absorb all this energy from the Superior. Vukovic storing up to another frenzy plant, letting this one rip out as well. I imagine the Registeel is probably just going to cop this on the chin and keep on locking down. No, he does go for the shield. It's going to get the lock on down off, and Jakovic just not able to get to a third move there against the Registeel. In comes the Lantern, has the Surf loaded, lets it off. And I think this Registeel is going to have to start thinking about shielding something, or it's going to be too low to take on the Medicham back.
Yeah, look, it's definitely starting to get low, and actually throwing the charge move there. Was that charge attack priority on throwing the move, or was there an extra fast move in there?
I think it was charge attack priority, which is really bad news for Stumpy, because now he's got no energy for this Medicham, and the Medicham's just going to come in and just start tapping away until this Registeel is no longer.
Yeah, this is really unfortunate. Does get a charge move off here, going straight for that Zap Cannon to try and get a debuff here on this Medicham. There is the debuff, but this Medicham is not very healthy at all. And so all of this energy on Yakko's side is really going to help out to try and take out Stumpies here. Here comes this Psychic. It does bring Medi down to half health. We don't get a defense drop this time around, but now he can quite comfortably just go for this Ice Punch here. Really just putting the ball back into Stumpy's court. Like, hey, you're going to have to shield here. You know that it's too dangerous. And yeah, unfortunately for Stumpy, does shield up this Ice Punch, which means that this Psychic going to come through, going to take out the Medicham, and in comes back in a very low health Registeel that does not have anywhere near enough energy to try and take this thing out, which means that what it means is that Jakobovic is now on a 4-game tear and is at a 1-0 position in the grand finals. This is like, Stumpy has just got to be sitting there like, what can I even do? Because that is the same lineup again.
Yeah, and look, I think Stumpy had potential to win that matchup. If he had not gone for that CMP tie, letting the Surf come through and farming down the Lantern, he actually would have had that Zap Cannon ready to go for the Medicham, which was in Zap Cannon range. So once again, just slight errors from Stumpy's side, and Jakobovic just making the absolute most of everything that he's got when he's got it. It's just an incredible show of skill coming out of Jakobovic, but Stumpy's not going to go down without a fight. We know he's a true hardcore battler. He loves getting in there and having absolute crack. So there's still plenty of exciting matches to see.
Oh, look, Stumpy's there knowing that he's got something to prove now. He's like, I can crack this team. Yakko's got these 3 Pokemon again and again and again and again. And he just needs to find that source to get his way through. And you're right, he was like on the precipice. He had the advantage there, but unfortunately just really lost that advantage on that charge attack priority, lost all of that energy on Registeel, which is such a devastating amount of energy to lose. Like, that is such an expensive charge move, and to just completely go by the wayside, you are in some serious trouble. So, look, I think, like, hopefully Stumpy's sort of taken that on board and is like, okay, like, I have chances here. Like, we can make this happen. It was right there. We just need to try and I guess, execute towards the end to make it happen. But look, we'll get into game number 2, and we'll see if Stumpy can try and figure out how to crack this impossible team of 3. And, I also can see Speed is Chief in the chat, so hopefully he doesn't mind my break-in. But we've got the Medicham into the Frostlass in the lead here. Again, trying something a little bit different, and we've got a quick swap into the Lantern, and Stumpy staying in. Is he going to try and go for the chip and dip? It looks like he is, and this is presumably, it would be a crazy move to go for an avalanche here. But we do. Oh my gosh, he went for it. He was trying to get a shield out of Yakko, trying to get an advantage, and he just didn't go for it. That is a crazy call from Yakko, and I think straight away Stumpy is sort of on a back foot here.
Well, Stumpy did have the lead win, and I think what his plan here was just to chip that Lantern down before bringing in the Lickitung, because that Lantern, if it lands the Thunderbolt, it can actually flip the 2-shield matchup against the Lickitung, provided that it shields correctly. So Stumpy trying to chip it down so that he can put it into maybe a couple of body slam ranges plus lick damage. But we see now that lick time is really quite low. Jakobovic opting to not shield this move. It is the power whip, does get the KO, and now back comes in the Metachamp to get a farm down on this Lickitung.
Yeah, and a lot of farm it is going to get. It will have to take a body slam to the face, but it will be able to still get a fair bit of energy here. And like we've seen Metachamp in basically every single game so far through this tournament, and there's a good reason for that, because with this energy advantage, it can do a lot of work. We'll see if Stumpy does decide to bring in the Frostlass again. He's farmed up past the Psychic and is now going for a bait the other way. He's going for the Ice Punch and is really just putting the pressure on Stumpy. You want to shield this. You want to shield this, and he does, which is deadly for Stumpy here, because now he's really going to have to think about this energy on the Metacham, throwing right before he gets up to the Psychic and forcing a shield out of Yakko, but there's still a lot of game left to play. Oh.
That's right, but now the Metacham is low enough, the Avalanches are going to do enough work, so Stumpy knows that. He's going to put it straight Avalanche, but the Psychic now coming through, does the Frostlass elect to shield? Oh no, it doesn't shield. Hangs on with 1 HP and switches out into his own Metacham. Hopefully he saved a move back there. But now this Metacham is going to try a real aggressive farm down. But before Yakko gets the Psychic, he throws a nice punch just to get rid of it and keep his own Metacham healthy.
Oh, yeah, we saw Yakko start to go for that Ice Punch, but wasn't able to get there in time. And now that he's got the chance, he decides to protect his Metacham to get this Psychic off. He wants to bring this Metacham down below that half health to try and help this Superior out, because Stumpy still has a shield, but there is no shield on Yakko's side. So Stumpy is going to need to get to 2 charge moves onto this Metacham to try and take it out. And Metacham is well past the Ice Punch at this point. So the pressure is really going to start to mount actually back onto Yakko. It's just a question of when he's going to throw, and here we go. So first Ice Punch going to come through. Superior is a very bulky Pokemon, so even though it is a super effective move, it takes it quite well. It's the second Ice Punch, and it looks like charge attack priority. Oh my gosh. Wow.
We can see the disappointment on Stumpy as he crosses his arms and lets the game go. He knows the deal now. His Frostlass isn't healthy enough to clean up this game, and that's Superior just too strong in that end game, able to really just make the most of that chipped Metacham and take it out with two aerial aces on CMP tire.
What? Like, it's just so hard to prepare for that charge attack priority. Like, that's so far away from like the basic thoughts of the game. Like, energy management is already so much. Like, how much energy do they have? How much health do they have? Is this enough to take it out? It's just that extra level of, am I going to have more attack than them to get this charge move off first? I am. This is the strategy. This is the path. This is how I win this battle. And Jakobovic is now on a 5-0 game streak. This is insane in the grand finals against, like, again, the one undefeated battle at Stumpy. Like, he's putting on such a clinic here, and Stumpy is just not able to crack this team. Again, Yakko going in with this same, like, these same Pokemon. How do you crack this puzzle? It is just... Is it even beatable? Is it even possible? Stumpy's showing these hints of like getting so close, but then one small little slip and Yakko just darts right on through. Yakko is just putting on such a clinic here and showcasing why he is the OCI champion, how he was able to be the highest win rate battler in the world in the play Pokemon circuit. Like, he is seriously showing off some serious talent. Insane.
Yeah. It's unbelievable to see, and he did the exact same thing in OCIC. You know, he won the winners final 3-0, and then in the grand final once again 3-0 against Fish on Ahita. Like, he was just unstoppable that day, and you know, this is looking like it's going to come down to a very similar outcome here for Jakobovic. Just an incredible battler, and I would have to say, like, if he's not ranked as one of the world's best, then surely after this weekend he must be.
Oh yeah, look, that's the Speediest Chief in the chat. New casting phrase. They're about to go Yakko mode because he is putting on an absolute show. It is wild here. And so now Stumpy just has to go, okay, I'm not going to let this guy go 6-0. It's not happening. I'm getting a win here. So he just has to crack the formula, because we all know what 3 Pokemon Yakko is going to use. He's going to use the Superior. He's going to use the Lantern. He's going to use the Metacham. It might not be in that order, but they're all coming out. So let's jump into game 3 and seeing what Stumpy tries in this game number 6 to try and crack open the formula. And he's going in with the Lickitung lead into the Superior, which is a very interesting matchup where, again, those Frenzy Plants do really add up onto the neutral damage to the Lickitung. And Lickitung isn't doing a ton of damage in return. They're sort of just slowly weakening each other down. And so, look, these guys, I'm assuming one of them is going to end up chipping and dipping with a charge move. It's just a matter of when.
Yeah, and it's interesting to note too that the Body Slam and the Frenzy Plant both pace exactly the same with these two differing fast moves. So Stumpy's going to want to try to avoid any sort of CMP ties, knowing that he's not going to win that scenario. But he's now going for his second Body Slam. He's going to put the Superior quite low, down into the red, I would assume, and it does. Now he's going to Yakovic over-farming, throwing another Frenzy Plant here to try and get rid of this Lickitung.
Yeah, because that Lickitung can definitely be a bit of a menace, and so on a sliver of HP, able to keep that switch advantage alive. In comes that Medicham, but now Medi has a bit of an energy advantage. And Yakko is sort of sitting here like, ooh, if I bring my Medicham in, I'm behind on energy. And if I bring my Lantern here in, it's not actually that great of a matchup either. So it opts for the Lantern rather than going for the straight disadvantage that Medicham would be. And so now it's going to be a bit of a game of, can I get the big charge move through? Or can I just do I just want to go for chip damage? Do I want to leave health for my Medicham a little later on? But straight away, letting a Psychic through, it is actually really putting Yakko on the back foot again. So look, we've seen Stumpy in this position before, and Yakko, who's been able to fight his way through, can Stumpy keep the pressure on and keep taking Yakko down?
Yeah, and look, Stumpy's in a really commanding position here. I think Yakovic really had to make a decision after his Superior went down. Do I predict that it's Registeel or Frostlass in the back? He's going with the prediction that it could be the Registeel, leaving his Medicham to cover that option. He's now got he's going to let this Lantern go down, just not barely to the Ice Punch, and the Frostlass comes in on the counter swap with the Medicham, and this is looking really good now for Stumpy. He's going to outpace to those hard-hitting moves, and Yakovic going for the Ice Punch. This is doing resisted damage, but is it going to be enough to sort of put the pressure on this Frostlass?
Yeah, it even looked like that slight little bit early, just trying to get the damage through. And this is something we saw earlier where it's like, oh, because you've gone for the low charge move, like the low energy charge move, I know you are ages away from that Psychic.
Whoa!
And a straight Shadow Ball coming through, demolishing Yakovic's Medicham. And now it is going to be a straight Powder Snow down. And Stumpy has taken a game from Yakovic. It is no 6-0. It is now a 5-1. Stumpy is back and is now going to be pushing for that reverse sweep in the grand final. Is this wild?
Yeah, look, the tournament's not over yet. There's plenty more to play for. Stumpy has shown that actually, you know what, I can beat this Yakovic guy. He's not invincible, and he's going to do his absolute hardest to try and continue this. Now that he's got the momentum, Yakovic all of a sudden has to go, oh, is my 3 safe picks, are they so safe as what I thought they are? I don't know.
Yeah, he's going to make the call. Do I change my 3? Do I keep my 3? Because I feel like Stumpy was in a really good spot there where he had the Lickitung up against the Superior. So he sort of gets to use up the Superior's health and leave his Medicham. Like, he'll lose the matchup. He can come in with his Medicham and get that energy advantage. And again, put Yakko in a bit of a dangerous position. It's like, ooh, I don't have a great Pokemon to bring in here. Like, I'm sort of going to be clutching at straws a little bit. And as we saw, because Stumpy had the Frostlass in the back, it meant that, excuse me, because he sort of was threw his Lantern into the Lion's Den against that Medicham, that he needed his own Medicham to take out a Frostlass, which is not something that it often does. Not that it's impossible, because we've certainly seen it done. But it's not where he wants to be. So I feel like for Yakko, it could just be all right, let's not leave the Superior. Let's, go back to one of my other 2 safe picks. Sort of, I guess, most likely the Lantern that he liked to lead with quite often. So I wouldn't be too surprised if that's the way we go. But then Stumpy has that opportunity. Like, oh, do I try and go for the hard read and really try and punish? Like, Stumpy's got a chance now, and he's sort of put that momentum back.
That's right.
Yakko isn't sitting there as confident as he might have been beforehand. There's a chink in the armor, you could say.
Yeah, and Stumpy's going to do his best to expose that chink and maybe land another arrow in there as well.
Exactly right. So let's get into it. Stumpy trying to get the win, keep his chances alive at the regional championship. Jakobovic only needs that one more game to be the Brisbane regional champion, and he's gone back in with the superior into the Lickitung. Okay, this is a dangerous spot here because now we saw Stumpy win this battle last time. Can he do it again? Do we see it play out the same way? Again, we're going to see a flurry of Frenzy Plants and Body Slams going back and forth, I assume, and Yakko is just sitting here thinking like, okay, do I want to play it differently? Do I want to let Stumpy get a Metachamp energy advantage? Do I think that it is even a Frostlass in the back? He's really sort of using the glare of the light against him, but it looks like, at least going for this first Frenzy Plant to really try and just take some time here and think, what do I do next?
Oh, and we see that Stumpy's actually elected to shield the first move here, and now he is throwing a Body Slam in return, and Jakobovic is also shielding. So instead of going with the, if it ain't broke, don't fix it, he's going to change up his strategy a little bit. And now the Superior has back-to-back Frenzy Plants, and it's going to put a lot of pressure onto this Lickitung. And given that we're now in the one-all shield scenario, I feel those matchups in the back are a little bit different.
Yeah, this is sort of a bit of a dangerous position now for Stumpy. It was looking like it could be really strong, but now, like, that Lickitung is going to go down. They're at even shields. He's going to be able to get a fair bit of farming here with the Frostlass actually coming in now. He's going to be able to farm all the way down, and we know that a Frostlass with energy is different, but Yakko has gone for a different strategy for the first time in 7 games. He has swapped out a Pokemon and has brought the Ninetales. This is a Stumpy's nightmare with Ninetales now into his Frostlass. This is wild, Fishy Legs.
Yeah, Yakko with an incredible call. He's thought, I think the Frostlass is coming. Maybe the Registeel as well. Let's bring in the Shadow Kanto Ninetales. And it puts it right where he wants it. And now this Metachamp's been chipped to allow his own Metachamp to come in and take advantage of that health advantage despite the energy deficit.
Yeah, this is insane. A Psychic could even come through here, but Yakko even calls the Psychic.
Wow.
And now Yakko is actually going to be really comfortable in he could essentially go for double Psychic here, but instead he's actually going for the Ice Punch. He is trying to really get a massive advantage here against Stumpy. If Stumpy shields here, I don't know if there's coming back. There is no shield from Stumpy. A really good call, but Yakko will still be able to survive a Psychic from this Metachamp. And potentially this might even be even better because you can get a full farm down on this Metachamp. Like, this is going to be really dangerous for that Frostlass in the back.
Oh. Yeah, Stumpy unable to get off a second move there. This Metachamp is absolutely loaded. The Psychic coming through. This Frostlass has to make a decision here. Do I let the Psychic go through and take the chip damage and try and farm this thing down to save shields? But no, going to have to shield. Going to push for that farm down. Jakobovic lining up his next Psychic. This is going to put this Frostlass dangerously low, and I imagine there's going to be a quick swap into that Kanto Ninetales just to seal the deal. There it is.
There it is. Jakobovic getting that one Ember through, taking out Stumpy in such dominant fashion. I mean, taking it out not only with that first 3-0 in the first round, but then taking it out a 3-1, only slipping once. And, like, that's such a mastermind call. Like, just bringing the Ninetales in, expecting the Frostlass is going to be around. Like, that's... I can't fathom that level of... Like, he's obviously sat down. He's been using the same 3. Game 1, Game 2, Game 3, Game 4, Game 5, Game 6. As soon as he loses once, he's like, oh, all right, I'll try something else. And just happens to, like, mastermind the greatest possible team to take down Stumpy. Like, that's a level of skill you don't see very often.
Yeah, and it was a gamble, right? Because if Stumpy had brought the Swampert, or the Carbink in that game, that's a very different outcome there for Jakobovic. So he's just made the calculation gone, I'm expecting the same 3-mon from Stumpy. I expect that there's going to be a Lickitung and a Metachamp, possibly the Frostlass or the Registeel. And I'm just going to capitalize on my Shadow Kanto Ninetales that served him so well throughout the entire day.
Yeah, and it did. Like, it's such a sort of like, that's such a weird storyline where you do have this like Pokemon that's doing so well for you all day. You completely bench it through the grand finals and it's doing incredibly well without it. It's like, don't need it, 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 don't need it. All right, final battle. Comes back in, does an insane amount of work for Yakko, and just like, I can't imagine just like what Stumpy was feeling when that Ninetales came in, because you have to imagine he was so confident that like, I know what 3 Yakko is bringing here, and it did not include a Ninetales. And when you see that come out, it's like, I don't know if you can feel anything but helpless in that moment. Not only because you're completely like, it's like, this is so unexpected, but because you're in such a bad position with this Frostlass staring down the barrel of that Ninetales. Like, it's so tough.
Yeah, I mean, any other Pokemon and that energy advantage on the Frostlass it's going to go miles, you know.
Oh,
and,
yeah.
and we see that even the Yakovovich lets the Shadow Ball through, knowing that he can tank it on his Shadow Ninetales. Like, that's just great recognition of, and great, you know, team reading, mind reading, you could almost call it, of Stumpy's thoughts throughout that entire set. And look, Yakovovich really is sealing his spot at Honolulu for 2024.
Yeah, exactly right. Let's bring Debbie back in here, because we do now have one of the first Australian to have qualified for the 2024 World Championships from Australia. And could it go to a more deserving man? Like, Debbie, that was incredible.
Oh, just what a way to seal it and finish it off through there. And yeah, with the, I suppose, I wouldn't say surprise pick, because Djokovic is just so good at team reading and just so good when the momentum is in his favor. Like we mentioned, we've seen him do that in OCIC with all the reads against a fish on a heater and doing it again. So we know that he has that skill set. It's just not luck. That he's able to do these reads. And you know, I'm so glad, I'm so happy to see him represent Australia in Hawaii in, you know, next year.
Yeah, exactly right. You know, Yakko is the person who's been, you know, sort of on the brink of retirement for months. You know, World Championships happened. He was like, oh, you know, maybe we're done here, you know, and then straight in, first regional, and bada bing, bada boom, sweeps through the entire thing in such a dominant, like probably the most dominant grand finals we've seen here in Australia. Like, that was just so incredible in his ability to just hard push through. He's seriously such a skilled battler, and I think, like, I actually feel like, even though he is like an OCIC champion, people know him all around the world, he is still an underrated battler. People don't understand how skilled of a battler Yakko is, because look, everyone better watch out in Honolulu, because I wouldn't want to face him.
Nope. Yeah,
he's certainly cracked, and I think, like, yeah, just his capabilities are just shown again and again. And the fact is that it is not shown outside because we don't have a live stream. I think if it was live stream, people would actually see his capabilities, and like, he would be more recognized on an international stage. But we, you know, our backyard friends, we're just like, yeah, we know he's good. Yeah, he's gonna do great. Yeah. So maybe this you know, a bit of an underdog story will come through when we lead into Hawaii. But a fantastic battler, and again, like, so happy to see his, like, you know, picture perfect finish here.
Yeah, look, he doesn't have a chance to retire anytime soon. He's at least locked in till, like, you know, in next sort of August-ish, whenever the World Championships might be. But as Speedy's actually mentioned in the chat, Yakko is also, like, not only is he qualifying again, but he's also one of only technically 5 people to have ever won both an international championship and a regional championship, alongside the likes of Wadaj, it's Axon himself, Rajaf, and then the 5th being me, Weedle, who actually won the seniors division EUIC way back when, before going ahead and also getting a bit more street cred than just that, taking out the world championships for the seniors division, of course. So a very exclusive club. And now Yakko is sort of, you know, he's got to set his targets on being one of only 2 with Axon to won a regional, an international, and a world championship. So he's got some sights to set, to say the least.
That's right.
I had a laugh with Yakko when he won, and I was like, "Oh, you get another medal," and he's like, "Oh no, I didn't get a medal last time. This is my first medal." Because got the trophy from OCIC. So I was like, oh, of course, sorry. My apologies.
Only a measly medal. Man. on the lower rung. But look, it'd be nice knowing you all. But regardless, like, he's absolutely stacked, and I'm really looking forward to seeing him compete in the World Championships. But of course, there are still 2 regionals left to go. We have Melbourne coming up in February. We have Perth coming up in April, and these other battlers, including some battlers here, may have some championship points that they're sort of starting to stack up towards that qualification as well. So, obviously, good luck to all of the Aussies who are competing over the next 2, and a massive shout out as well to, the top 4 that did so incredibly well. Rick Flareon, Stumpy, Yakko, and Valiant Fish, who are all World Championship caliber battlers, and I'm really looking forward to seeing them all qualify going forward through the rest of the 2024 season.
Absolutely.
Look, I'll be honest, guys. I've actually lost where we went. I don't know how to get back. Oh, okay, I found it. We're back.
There we are. We're back.
We're back. But with that said, of course, first off, a massive thank you to everyone who has come through the stream at one point or another. It's so appreciated that even though we didn't have a live broadcast through the actual tournament, that, you sort of are still willing to come out and support the Oceanic community, because they are incredible. Like, these battles have been absolutely insane, and the big thank yous go out to ZoeTwoDots, to Mikey Morgs, and of course to Gone 1001 for all getting us this footage, because if it weren't for those 3 individuals, we'd be seeing nothing today, and all of these battles would just be lost to history. We'd talk about it maybe later on. It would just be like a statistic, like, oh yeah, did you hear that Yakko won the Brisbane Regional? It's like, oh no, I didn't, because why would I have seen anything about that? So having this ability to sort of see these battles is just really incredible, and fingers crossed that hopefully going into the future we could maybe get a live stream at some point. We can hope, right? But yeah, with that said, thank you to all of those guys, and of course I didn't actually mention this at the start of the stream. I should have said this, but a massive thank you to DracoViz as well, because I did steal their team graphics through this entire thing, but also for being such a great resource that has also been covering the Oceanic region the entire time. Like, it was a gap that was definitely not being filled before they sort of came into the scene, and it's seriously incredibly grateful for all they do to sort of actually showcase what we have been doing this entire time. It's appreciated. But not only that, thanks to these 2 lovely human beings for, coming on and sort of going through us. Not so much to this guy, that Dr. Trotter guy. No thanks go out to him. But
I thought you were pointing to your own name. I was like, what are you talking about?
It's like, hang on.
Thanks to Steve. Thank you for Steve for running the stream and collecting it all and putting it all together, the graphics and the videos, because this wouldn't have happened without PvP Steve.
Oh. No, I'm always willing to do anything to sort of support this Oceanic scene, and if this is what it takes to get our Australian battlers seen and shown off, then it's more worth it than anything, even if I had to break into Speedy's Chief's house to make it all happen. But hey, we'll do what we have to do. But with that said, thank you so much to everyone who's come out. Thank you all for showing up, and really looking forward to the Melbourne Regional Championship. Do come along. It's in like exactly 2 months. So, do come along, because it is definitely a good time. And I guess I should also say the obvious gratitude towards Zoe and Alan for showing up and registering, so that we actually got top 16 getting championship points as well. Thank you for taking us over the limit there. There's about 8 humans who are incredibly appreciative of those extra championship points. I guess Debbie, Fishy, any final words before we sort of hit the stop button on this puppy?
See you in Melbourne.
See you in Melbourne.
See you in Melbourne. So yeah, see you in the next one. There's no rating function, so just go support someone over on twitch.tv in the Pogo thingo. Just like pretend it's a raid. But yeah, see you in the next one, guys. Bye.
Bye.